Freakacast news, we're going back to the future, this time with Lego! Woo! That's right, folks. Lego Cuso has now solidified the Back to the Future line. Okay, now we're going to start with a DeLorean and maybe a couple minifigures. I'm hoping it extends further than that. I mean, you could do the train. I think that would be a great set, you know, have your train set, you know, it's the locomotive with the little tender thing, have Doc Brown, whatever her name was, and the two kids. That would be pretty awesome. I personally, just because I'm a nostalgic person like this, I think it'd be really cool to have the clock tower set, like the clock tower, and you know, it's got the little line, and you have the DeLorean that goes through, and you have to get it. That would be awesome.
Plus, what's nice is you have 3 different eras that you can explore. You've got the past, 4 actually. You have the present day, you have the future, and you have further past, you know, the Old West.
Yes, and we know, because the Lone Ranger sets, they can do Old West. We'll take, you know, and I wouldn't, you know, to differentiate it itself from, say, the Lone Ranger or some of the older West sets they've done, you know, kind of mix in a little bit of that futuresque aspect of it, you know, make sure that Marty's there, but, you know, it's something that says, okay, this is clearly a Back to the Future set. And you know what? The guys at LEGO are very creative, where I'm sure that they could come up with something pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
No word yet on exactly when we're going to have that. I don't think... Oh, I'm sorry. July 18th. Holy crap. Less than a month. That's awesome. But, you know, that's just the first set. And like I said, the only set we know for a fact is going to be the DeLorean with, like, a couple minifigures.
And just to pause just for a second, that's cool in and of itself that LEGO's going to have a DeLorean. Even if it wasn't Back to the Future. A LEGO DeLorean's pretty cool.
Well, you know, it's funny that they're doing it because literally, like, after the first time that I saw that film, the first thing I did was build a DeLorean out of my Legos.
I'm not surprised.
So, I mean, it's a DeLorean and it's Legos. You can't miss. Going along with this idea of Lego and Back to the Future, which is a movie, we have Lego the Movie coming out next year on February 7th.
I saw the preview for that.
Oh, the preview, good.
And the moment I saw it was like, Matt's going to love this.
I don't know where to begin on this. The trailer alone, I could literally watch, like, every day. All day, and not get tired of it. Because the really cool thing is, yeah, you start off with a random guy, but, you know, it's like, we have Michelangelo, and Michelangelo, and you got Batman, and Superman, and, you know, some random space guy, and it's narrated by Morgan Freeman! Morgan Freeman and Batman in the same movie again!
For the record, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard Matt's inner fanboy squeal.
Yes, you did. That was the same sound I made after I saw the 4th Man of Steel trailer.
You know what's kind of funny? Is way back when, if you go back to our early podcasts, I actually asked you in our Lego podcast if there could be a possibility of a Lego film. And here we are. We're going to have a Lego film.
It's amazing. And you know what I really like about it, Andrew? I think, well, I'm trying to think how to start this off. They actually, I don't know if they still do or not currently have it on air, but I know last year, when I was still there with you, you know, they had a Lego Ninjago show, you know, animation, and it was done CG, and it was done really well as far as animation. And they've done other things like their the Lego Star Wars, like the little like one-off things, like where they're like 20-30 minutes long, but it's just a self-contained story. The first one was like the Phantom Breakers, I don't know. But the really cool thing is, this is not CG. This is straight up real Legos stop-motion animation. Now, we know from the few small attempts we've done, it takes a long freaking time to make good stop animation.
Yes.
The fact that they actually went and did this it's amazing. And I mean, let's face it, you got Morgan Freeman in it. I know that there's going to be other famous people in it. I don't know who off the top of my head because I don't have it right in front of me.
That's
But
okay.
you got Morgan Freeman in your movie, okay? And it's got Legos. And it's stop-motion animation. Like, if you don't go see this film, you have no right to call yourself a nerd.
I mean, the nice thing about it is that I got from the trailer was the fact that it's clearly a kids movie, but it's written in such a way that the adults will also be like entertained the entire time.
Well, and honestly, Andrew, it goes back to you own a few of the Lego games.
Yes.
That same style of humor, it's entertaining. It's they're self-aware that they're Legos, and that they're picked and then their legs can pop off at any moment,
Well, it basically encapsulates that phrase "fun for all ages."
Yes, and that is something that, quite honestly, I think in this day and age we could use more of.
Yeah.
I think often we think of things as like, oh, it's only for kids, or it's only for teens, or it's only for adults. Like, this is fun no matter how old you are.
Yes. As long as you have a sense of humor.
They really are fun for all ages. I mean, you put a small pile of Legos in front of anybody of any age, they'll have fun with it.
Except if you don't like Lego.
No, because even if you don't like Lego, guess what? You can start a bonfire. It's something to do that's entertaining for you, okay? Not condoning burning your Legos. Never mind the fact that we made that film years ago.
And that's only because you had spares and we were bored.
That was my brother's idea, okay? That wasn't yours. It wasn't mine. We divulge all partaking of that to an extent. We were responsible for videotaping and coming up with a song, but no, my brother did all of it.
In all fairness, that's not the first toy I've burned.
Do what?
I said, in all fairness, that's not the first toy I've burned.
That was the first toy I've watched burn.
I had some really crappy G.I. Joes and Street Fighter figures that I not only burned but also used as firework fodder.
Yeah, see, I grew up in a state where fireworks were illegal, so we didn't exactly have that option.
Because let me tell you, there's nothing as entertaining as strapping M80s to M. Bison.
Honestly, just hearing that put together, strapping M80s to M. Bison, that alone is funny.
By the way, I do not condone that activity. It was stupid then, it's stupid now.
Yes. Yeah. But anyway, going along with the idea of fun for all ages, wow, we got some really great segues in this news segment. Going along with fun for all ages, Andrew, great. You grew up in Florida.
Yes.
You've obviously been to Disney World multiple times, right?
Yes.
Familiar with the Star Wars ride, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, now that Disney has acquired Lucasfilm, guess what? They're like, you know what? One Star Wars ride isn't enough. We want to expand. But I hear this first. I thought, they're going to create a new section of the park that's all Star Wars. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to expand the Star Wars section, okay? Right now, you really just have, like, the Star Wars ride, and you've got the little shop next to it, and you've got a couple little, like, things next to it. Like, you've got the little forest background, the speeder bike, take a picture, and then you've got, like, the AT above it.
Yeah. Well,
what they're going to build, and this alone, quite honestly, is like every fanboy's dream. They're going to flat out build a restaurant in the style of the Cantina.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, they're going to do that as part of their upgrade, but they're also going to, I haven't read or heard much about it other than kind of the name, and I guess kind of taking what their show is and expanding upon that. They're going to have a Jedi training academy. I know that they do kind of a mini Jedi training academy, right now, sort of a show demonstration sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Is that like where that video took place of the little girl swearing allegiance to the dark side?
Yes, yes. And actually, there's I got to send you about that. That's just very heartwarming. About a kid with autism that
I missed all of that. I'm sorry.
Okay, and don't worry about it. I'll send you the link. Um, but I like the fact that they're expanding about it and saying, look, this has been working really well. We need to expand about it. And then that way, like I said, I don't know if they're just going to take the show demonstration thing and just do it full on like during the day, or if they're going to set it up how they're set it up. But quite honestly, as long as they build it to look like the Jedi Temple, I'll be happy.
Well, maybe what they could do, I mean, it's...
Walk into the Jedi Temple, and there's people that will train you. I mean, come on.
Well, maybe what they could do, I mean, they could probably do it better since they're Disney. But you remember when you and I went to that spy museum, and we went to that extra bit where we got to train as spies?
Yes.
Maybe something like that.
Honestly, I would have no doubt it's going to be something similar to that, only, more tied to the theme of, Jedi training.
I was going to say, like that, but better.
Well, yeah. Well, and not only that, but, right now the show demonstration thing is, okay, we get the kids, we give them robes, we give them the toy lightsabers, and they get to go up, and I think, they fight Darth Maul, then they fight Darth Vader. And they have specific moves they have to do, because it's time-consuming, so you can get more show. But it's just on this area, and they only do it at certain times. With this, I would say it's probably going to be a combination of what they currently do and probably what you suggested. Have things where you're going along, almost like stations, where okay, you complete this station of training, then you move on to the next one. And like a storyline sort of. I think that would be great. Wait, I get to go. I will be able to go to a Star Wars cantina and order a drink. Just let that sink in.
I'll tell you what, though, Matt. If you and I happen to be at the same park at that point, and you're at the cantina ordering a drink, I'm totally gonna walk up behind him and say, "Hey, want some death sticks?"
That's awesome.
That'll be a promise. If you or I are ever in the Star Wars cantina, I'm totally gonna offer you death sticks, even if I don't have any.
That's okay. In fact, if you don't do that, I'd be a little worried. You know what would be funnier, though? You know what would be funnier?
If they had death sticks at Disney?
No, that's bad. What would be funnier is if you go up to a stranger, and I'm just videotaping, and you go, "Want to buy some death sticks?"
Because that would be like, is this part of the show? But then be like, why are you dressed in shorts? Got a point.
The thing is, Andrew, I got to tell you right now, it's gonna. If you walk into this Star Wars cantina in Disney World and you say any sort of Star Wars line, you're not gonna get questioned. They will just go with it.
Of course they will. They'll immediately do the you don't want to sell me death sticks.
Yeah,
I want to sell you death sticks.
Well, and actually, the funny thing is they were talking about on the Forcecast about how okay, we should totally go in there and video themselves one of us up to the other because I don't like there. No one said men. It's we could totally just shoot somebody and then walk up and casually hand the bartender cash and just leave. And by the way, we're not condoning shooting somebody. No, but it's pretty awesome. I think if they do it right, I mean, and honestly, if they really do it like this, have your bar, have it like a restaurant, but have a place for the band. And guess what? They won't play the same song all the time. And then, quite honestly, guess what? You're going to get, if they do it right, and I know Disney's going to do it right, because that's why, it's fun. This before. I film.
I'm pretty much losing all of that.
Anyway, George Lucas turned over his company to Disney because he knows that Disney would do it right.
Yes.
So, Disney's going to have it set up pretty much like I described, tables on the side, a bar, restaurant, that sort of thing, and most likely a stage for live music. Oh, live music in a restaurant, that alone, quite honestly, is an experience you're not going to get most other places.
Well, because it is Disney, it might be animatronics.
I'm okay with that. Honestly, I think we're all okay with it, because we'd rather see, the modal nodes play as opposed to like, oh, here's some humans. Like, no, we want the modal nodes. But I mean, that's half the fun. I mean, and that's really what it's about. And we know Disney can do it right.
I'd go.
Yeah. Like, even if it's just for that. In fact, I'm seeing it right now. You would probably be willing to go if the only thing you were able to accomplish that day was coming up to me in a Star Wars cantina and going, "You want to buy some?"
And just to add icing on the cake, I've got pixie sticks.
That'd be awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I know they wouldn't do it, but please, Disney, have some pixie sticks on hand so I can buy them and then sell them to you. Although you would obviously turn me down and make me question my life, so...
Yeah. But pop these sticks. Anyway, what were you going to say?
I said, what else do we have on offer for news?
Well, the only other thing that I wanted to point out, because, we're going to get to our Man of Steel review, but apparently Warner Brothers has enough confidence in the film that they've already greenlit a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, it's made enough money, so why not?
Well, actually, they greenlit it before the movie came out.
Oh, okay. Well, high confidence.
Yeah. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Other than that, I don't have anything. Andrew, do you have anything to add?
Not at the moment. I've finished Skyrim as best as quote-unquote finished as I possibly can.
You finished. That's more than I did.
So now I'm playing Conker's... What's that?
That you played it, which is more than I did.
Yeah. If anyone actually wants to know my Skyrim experience, you can just ask me on Facebook, which we have, and Freak Entertainment at Facebook, or the Freakacast on Facebook, or Felson1.wordpress.com, if you guys want to know my Skyrim experience. At the moment, I'm playing Conker's Bad Fur Day, trying that for the first time ever, on the Nintendo 64, not the Xbox re-release. Again,
and how's that going so far?
It's definitely entertaining.
That's good.
To put it mildly, I mean, it's nice to see a game like that. The fact that it was made is amazing, and the fact that they got away with so much, and the fact that there's so much in it that you, of all people, would actually appreciate as well. Like, they are very good at adding in references to other, like, the things that are in popular media and culture, and they do it in such a way that it makes sense within the context of the game.
Yeah.
But you immediately be like, I know what that's from, that's awesome.
But at the same time, if you don't, it still works.
Yes. So on one hand, it's not like one of those reference movies where it's like, oh, they're just referencing it because they're referencing it, and it's not really that funny. This is actually an instance where it's referenced, it's funny and entertaining, and makes sense.
Yep, which is how a good reference should be done.
Yes. So, again, if you want to know more about that, I don't want to take up too much time here, drop me a line, I'll let you know.
Sounds good. That will do it for the Freakacast news. What if a film dreamed of being something other than what society had intended? What if a podcast aspired to something greater?
You get the Freakacast covering Man of Steel! Massive spoilers! Kneel before them! Kneel before the spoilers!
Awesome, dude. Kneel before the spoilers, because we're not going to hold anything back.
No, not at all. Because Superman didn't. Hooray!
Yep, exactly. Wow, we're on a roll already. This is awesome. So just to clarify, if you have not seen the film, stop the podcast right now.
And go out and see it.
I recommend seeing it twice. Because there's a lot in it. You want to make sure you take it all in. Come back, then listen, okay?
Yep. So you've been warned. We're going to spoil the heck out of this movie. Not because we're trying to be mean and nasty. It's because, honestly, you can't really talk about it without spoiling things. Other than, like, you know, hey, Matt, did you hear? Krypton is destroyed. Oh, my God.
What? But, no! Oh, yeah, that's right, because that was kind of written. I don't know. Almost.
Because, you know...
Ago.
You know, because even someone who's never seen a Superman movie or read a Superman comic knows that Krypton gets destroyed. That's why he's on Earth. So that's so common knowledge, it's like not even worth mentioning. But we have to because it's part of it, you know?
Well, and not only that, you know what, Andrew? Since you brought it up, I want to go ahead and delve into that aspect of it right now.
Okay.
One of the things, you know, that in previous incarnations, whether it be in film or TV or in comics, whatever, you know, obviously the destruction of Krypton has played an important role. You know, that's why Kal-El
is here in the first place.
Was sent to Earth. Now, what I really liked about the way that it was handled in Man of Steel was it's not just, oh no, you know, I've been studying the planet for, you know, however, you know, a couple months and it's going to be destroyed. It's like, no, they actually go into and give you a little bit more of a sense of, well, why is Krypton destroyed? It's like, well, you know, things have been changing over time, and we've been harvesting the cores. Like, we've been sucking the natural resources dry. And as a result, you know, it was already going, but we expedited it. And I honestly don't think that this was a intention. You know, filmmakers don't do that, at least most of the time. But that's almost kind of a little bit of social commentary on global warming, you know?
I mean, I'm sure it's intentional.
No, I don't think it is because honestly, I mean, it's Krypton. I mean, and we're going to talk about it somewhat, you know, social commentaries here and there, metaphors and other things, because it's there. It exists in art. I mean, you can't go away from it and have it not exist. I mean, shoot, it was in my Peter Pan play. You know, some of it was intentional, but some of it wasn't. You know, it just kind of happened by chance. You've written scripts, I've written scripts, you know, we've both done artistic things. It's like, look, yes, sometimes we do things intentionally, but sometimes it comes out and you're like, I didn't see that before until somebody pointed it out, and now I can't stop looking at it. It's like, thanks.
Yes. And really, I mean, honestly, just pausing for a second on all things, it's like, hey, movies, art, it's all subjective.
Yeah,
and
it is.
You know, you and I will see very different things when we watch the same thing.
Oh, yeah. It really is. And there's you know, it's interesting. They've talked about this on Rebel Force Radio / the Forcecast. It's really interesting because in Empire Strikes Back, I'm not trying to make this a Star Wars episode yet.
Yet.
Well, if everything goes well, that'll be the next one. The scene where Luke goes into the cave, and he looks at Yoda and says, "What's in there?" And Yoda says, "Only what you take with you." That's exactly the same thing that's in a movie. It's what we take with us. It's our experiences, it's our perceptions, it's our expectations. We take everything into a movie. Okay? That's why movies are subjective, because, Andrew, you and I have had different backgrounds.
Yes, indeed.
Grew up in different areas. We had different parents. There's a lot of things that are about the same, but there's a lot of things that are about us that are different.
Mm-hmm.
No physical way. Even my brother and I, okay, who grew up in the same house, you know, we're different. And so we're still going to view a movie differently.
Exactly.
You know? Maybe a little bit more similarly, I don't know, but still going to view it differently. So, warn everybody, you know, if you don't like our opinions, like my dad says, opinions are like armpits. Everyone has a couple of them and they all stink.
By the way, just to get this out of the way real quick, we both liked the film.
Yes, we did.
We both enjoyed it.
And like I said,
don't expect, you know, a whole bunch of, you know, bashing. This is going to be, it's not going to be a love fest either, but
positive review. But, you know, we'll talk about why we liked it. And was it perfect? No, but we'll talk about that as well. Anyway, going back to the destruction of Krypton. Well, let's kind of Krypton first because honestly, I could have watched a movie just about Krypton.
It was neat.
Honestly, it's one of those things where I remember when I first got glimpses of kind of looked at.
Again, we're having some audio issues. And if it fails to get any better, we will immediately go to the phone solution that we had last time, because that seemed to work, and we will not force you to endure another horrible audio blipping session like we had last time.
Anyway, let me try that again. Way back when we first caught a glimpse of the suit, when we had a first good look at the suit, I remember. Able to look at it in better detail is.
All right, we're gonna pause it here for a second, and we're back using the old phone solution.
I'm calling in. This is Matthew Puetz. I just wanted to say thank you for letting me on the Freakacast for a second time in a row.
One of these days we'll figure this out. You know, having Matt long distance and still doing a show can be difficult, but you know, the show must go on, as they say. And, you know, we are committed to trying to give you the Freakacast as best we can. You can find us on afelson1.wordpress.com. That is afelson1.wordpress.com. Our song is from songstourpants2.com. We're on Facebook. We are on Stitcher. We are on iTunes. Good stuff all around.
Everywhere. What time of the rest in your homes and your closets? No, not really.
That would be creepy, wouldn't it?
That would be creepy. Almost kind of like a creepy stalker, you know, in a red and blue suit.
Speaking of the red and blue suit.
Yeah, speaking of the red and blue suit, as I was about to say, we're trying to say previously, when we first got wind, or, you know, when we first got images of the suit, Andrew, I'm sure that you remember me talking about how it looks alien. You know, it looks like something that they would have worn on Krypton.
Yes, and you were right.
And they do, and that's the nice thing is, like, it is, you know, I'm trying to figure out the right word, like the production design, the art direction, like the way that Krypton is designed, it looks like a believable society and a believable planet, you know. No offense to fans of Richard Donner films, but that was one thing that I never really could grab a hold of. You know, the crystal-like architecture thing, well, I mean, I kind of get it. It's science fiction, but it just wasn't believable. You know, it didn't look like somebody could actually live in this thing, you know, whereas, you know, the technology and the architecture we see on Krypton, it looks realistic, it looks believable. The costumes, just amazing. You know, your council members, they look like, you know, higher politicians. They look like, you know, the bureaucrats, people in charge. You know, your military, you know, General Zod, no offense to Terrence Stamp, but, really, MC Hammer Pants weren't exactly his thing. You know, but really, you're a general. Why are you wearing a slip shirt?
and not body armor.
That's one thing I liked about the military is this. Like, the military, I don't know, they have armor and laser guns. Because if we're from another planet and we've got, you know, far advanced technology, we need space armor and laser guns and ships.
Yep.
And they have that. And honestly, it's like, you know, I could easily watch. And in fact, that's the other thing, too. You know, later on in the film, you know, it's you know, when Clark finally finds what he's looking for, he doesn't, you know, it's not a fortress of solitude. It's a scout ship that Krypton sent, you know, thousands of years ago. Well, for one thing, I like that idea because, hey, it's, you know, it's just, I like how it's explained. It's like, okay, it was sent here many years ago. Humans didn't find it, you know, it got, you know, the mission was abandoned, whatever. They're still here. They're stuck in the ice.
Yep.
The way that it looks, you know, it just should exist. And of course, we both laughed at the fact there was a polar bear there.
Yes.
That's the portion of solitude. That was funny.
Indeed it was.
But, you know, it's the fact that, you know, that's about the scout ships, you know, were sent, you know, like thousands of years ago. Well, I would have loved to see that. Like, that would be, I just think that would be a really awesome film to watch. Just, like, I know that, it's like, you know, people are like, oh, it's Superman. It's like, yes, but I was so invested in Krypton and, you know, the idea of, okay, you know, we're going to, engineer reproduction, you know, where, you know, inhabitants of Krypton are not naturally born. You know?
Yeah, that was such like a when I saw that part, like all the pod babies, I'm like, holy crap, it's the Matrix.
Yeah, it was very much in that style. Yeah, I can't remember which comic it was. Graphic novel, I should say. It was either Superman Birthright or Superman, there's one of the two. But, you know, that's something that they learned from the comics. And I thought that was something that really helps to separate Krypton from Earth. And I think that that's something that if you're going to establish a society and that sort of thing, and I've had discussions with one of my friends about it before, but this will be a really great story point, which they do. You know, when Jor-El and Mara, they have Cal as a natural birth. You know, the first natural-born being of Krypton in thousands of years, which already separates him from society. And also, the thing I really liked about it is, you know, when Jor-El was setting up the ship and everything for him to send Cal to Earth, I got the impression that it wasn't just Jor-El sending Cal away from Krypton because it's going to be destroyed physically, but almost as he was planning for this for a while because he knew that Krypton was being destroyed metaphorically. You know,
Yeah, I mean, because you know his big beef with the birthing system was the fact that they were like basically like ants, in the sense that before you were even born, your job was assigned to you. Like, all right, this kid, he's going to be a soldier. All right, this kid here, he's going to be a worker. This one's going to be a baker. This one's going to be a candlestick maker. This one's going to be the other guy in the bathtub that I don't remember. Oh, the butcher. The butcher.
I wanted to be the butcher. Sorry, I'm not going to understand that reference. But I made that just for him because he would have said that.
So he was like, so his big thing was like, all right, not only is he going to be a natural born, and we're going to send him to a better place that's not destroying, but he's also going to have free choice.
Yes.
The ability to choose.
One thing that I think that, quite honestly, I absolutely love about this. I'm like, finally, none of this, we're going to set up your destiny crap. I mean, it's not really they beat you upside the head with like, oh, it's Clark's destiny to, you know, be the savior of the world and stuff. Like, no, it's the story's much better with Superman when it's his choice. And I love the fact that they gave him that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That it was Clark's decision, you know, to be a good person, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, Jor-El was a good guy, and John was a good guy, so he's already kind of, like, got some things going on, but ultimately it was his decision. And that, you know, like you said, the free choice, that's something that, you know, the only way that Jor-El could give his son free choice was to send him to another planet.
Yep.
You know? And I like how, one of the things I also like is how Laura, you know, the mother, got more attention this round. And honestly, I remember, you know, because like I said, I've seen the movie twice. And when I saw it a second time, you know, you pick up on things that you didn't pick up on before. One of the things that I really started to notice was, especially in the Krypton scene, it's like, you know, you're on Krypton, which is this other planet, and it feels like a science fiction film, but at the same time it feels very real. And, you know, the movie starts off with the birth of Kal-El.
Yes.
You know, and it's shot, you know, like you're experiencing his birth, like you would experience a birth in real life. And I thought, you know, out of all the times that people have complained that Superman doesn't feel relatable, it's like, you can't really get much more relatable to another planet and another society than experiencing something that everybody experiences.
Exactly.
What a great hook. You know, we're already hooking you in with, you know, a birth happening. You know, not, oh, you know, we hear a few cries and it's like, no, I mean, you're seeing the stress on Laura's face. You're seeing, like, the kind of the worry almost on Jor-El's face. Like, God, it's like, is he gonna be okay? You know, it's like just like a father would. And then like right away, I mean, granted it's a short scene and we don't get a lot of moments, but the moments we get with Jor-El and Mara, like, these are parents. And Mara's like, you know, we're not gonna see him take his first steps. We're not gonna hear him say our names. It's like she's so heartbroken, but at the same time she realizes that this is the only way for him to have a decent life. And quite honestly, I think this is also another good point bring up, you know, like I said before, you know, what are we taking to a movie? It's like, you know, what's in a movie only what you take with you. Well, you know, I've mentioned this before, and this is where honestly, I can't talk about this movie without talking about my own life.
Yeah. I knew this was coming.
You know, because it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I've said it before where, you know, I'm adopted, and so I was able to relate to Clark on that level, you know. And I mean, I grew up on 7 acres with like 14 different types of animals. I might as well have grown up on a farm. And my dad's from Chicago, so I was raised by a Midwesterner father. So it's like, it's one of those things where I'm watching these things and I'm like, you know, and you know, it's interesting. People have asked me many times over the years, like, oh, well, you know, have you ever, you know, who your real parents are and that sort of thing? It's like, well, no, I just never concerned about it. But watching this film, like, those moments, it's like, holy crap, like, there was some woman out there who felt the same way about me, and crap, I'm tearing up right now as I'm saying it. It's like, and I don't, I mean, it's like, wow, it's like, you don't really, it's just, I honestly, I teared up a few times the second time when I was watching the scene with Clark and his parents.
Well, it's
because it really, really hit home for me.
Yeah. Well, it's a powerful scene because even if you aren't adopted like myself, you can still relate to it in the sense of, you know, you can understand a mother's love.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can. I mean, not everybody has the nice upbringings we had, but like you can get that emotion of like, all right, she does not want to give him up. She like before she puts him in the ship. I mean, she's just like, I don't want to put him down. I can't bear the thought of this thing taking off and having my son with it. I know it's for the better thing. Like, he will survive this mess and we won't. But I can't, like, I physically do not want to put him down because I can't tear my, like, I just gave birth to this kid. I don't want to put him away.
Yeah. Well, she even says it herself. She's like, I thought I could do it, but I can't. You know, and here's where, you know, parents really need each other because Jor-El's like, he kind of reminds her, he's like, look, I know you don't want to, but we have to. Like, it's almost like he's saying, look, I don't want to either, but I've accepted the fact that if I don't, he's going to die. And what do you want? I was like, do you want him to die with us, or do you want him to be able to go off and have a life?
Plus,
make the decisions of his own.
Plus, I mean, it's not like, you know, having him as a natural birth automatically was like, because like you saw the way Zod reacted when he said, it's a natural birth, and he's like, you're a heretic.
Yeah.
So even if the Krypton wasn't going to blow up, like even if that was his active choice of like, I'd like this to happen, they'd probably kill him anyway.
Right. And that's part of the reason why I like the idea of being more of, you know, he's from the society. I mean, yes, Krypton is about to be destroyed, but that's not the main reason. I really did feel like the main reason that Jor-El was sending Cal off was because he didn't want him to grow up in that society.
Right.
And that honestly hit even more home with me because, you know, my mom had told me before that my birth mother was only like 17, and you know, part of the reason she didn't want to keep me was because she knew that she couldn't give me the life that she wanted for me. It's like, oh my God, it's like, I mean, it's like, I honestly, dude, it's like, I can't tell you how much this film has meant to me. And at least in those moments, I mean, obviously there's all the fun stuff, but,
yes.
you know, I mean, that's, and you know, people say, well, oh, he's not relatable. I'm just looking and going, for me, he's totally relatable. I mean, because I relate on so many levels, and it's really hard for me to say I didn't like something when I can really, really, really relate to it.
No, I mean, and the thing is, I mean, it's there for you, so if you can relate to it in that level, more power to you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and honestly, it's like, I know that there are other people like me out there, you know, who are in a similar position, you know, and I think that I mean, even someone like yourself, you you know, like you said, like even if you're not adopted, you can understand a parent's love. And I think, honestly, and this is something that I'm going to touch on, you know, the film came out on Father's Day weekend. And you have, you know, Jor-El, his birth father, plays a large role. And later on, Jonathan Kent, his adopted father, plays a large role. And, you know, fathers play a large role in who we become, you know, regardless of whether you're male or female. You know, parents in general, but I mean, you see more of the fathers, that's why I bring it up. Like, I mean, parents really do make you who you are, even if you don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things, it's like, but, you know, it's not just those moments, but then, you know, we see, you know, Jor-El is ready to take on Zod, literally in a fight, to make sure that his son can get off. It's like he's ready to throw down to make sure that his son can safely get off the planet.
Yes.
I mean, and not only that, you know, like we said ahead, you know, before, spoilers, like, he goes down fighting to make sure that his son can get away.
Yes. And I want to pause here for a... What's that?
I said any parent that's willing to die for the child, that shows true love right there.
Exactly. And I want to pause this line of thought for a second and ask you a question.
Okay.
Who played General Zod in this movie?
His name was Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon. Was he in anything else prior to this?
Oh, yeah. Here, since I've got the IMDb page, let's see, he's known for, actually, a couple movies. He was in this movie called Take Shelter. It came out a few years ago. Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise. Bad Boys 2. He was recently in a Premium Rush. That was a movie that I saw. He was really good in that. Played the bad guy, basically. Let's see. He was, he was in another DC film, but unfortunately neither one of us saw it because we were like, oh, the trailer basically told us that this is not what it should be. Jonah Hex.
Oh, yes.
I don't know what he's in. He just says his name is Doc Cross Williams.
Well, the reason why I ask, and like the movies you listed I haven't seen, so I can't really make a total comparison, but the only reason I really ask of like who played Zod, and I don't know if he was doing a character voice because it sounded, and if he sounds like this in real life, I apologize for thinking this, but every so often I kept thinking, does he have cotton in his mouth? Why does he talk like this?
Yeah, honestly, that's how he sounds. That's how he talks.
All right, well.
I've seen him in another movie, and that's just his natural voice.
Well, if I've offended anybody because I said this, so be it, because it didn't take me out of the movie, and I'm sure he's a great actor and everything. It was just, I guess, because I've never seen him in anything else.
Yeah, well, no doubt. I mean, if you're not familiar with an actor and, you know, they have a certain speech pattern that you notice, well, it's like anything else. It's like, I mean, you know, William Shatner or Christopher Walken. It's like, I mean, Christopher Walken, you know, granted, is actually a decent actor. You know? Guy's actually got some range. I mean, he played a James Bond villain, you know, and then he was, like what's his face? Robin Williams' manager in, what was that movie? Man of the Year. You know? And we've seen him in other things. The guy has range, but he has a very distinct speech pattern. And to the point where it's like, okay, we can recognize his voice, you know, that you do impressions on, you know. So, I mean, like I said, I just kind of, I guess because I had seen him in something previous, I was aware of it. So, like, okay, that's how he talks. Just fast. But yeah, I can see where that would be a little weird at first, you know, for the first time seeing it.
I mean, it's not like
That's just how he talks.
I mean, it's not like it took me out of the movie. It's just like one of those amusing things as he's sounding all threatening. I'm just like, what, did you just come from the dentist, Zod? What's going on?
Yeah.
But anyway, back to our in-flight movie.
Nice. Where was I at, actually?
Well, basically, we get to the point where Jor-El has sacrificed his life to save his son, the destruction of Krypton, and now we're on Earth, and we start seeing Clark, and we start to see his story as it unfolds, where we don't start right away with young Clark. We actually see an adult Clark wandering around doing stuff, and we got to start to see how he's developed through flashbacks.
Yes. And I know that, there were some people that were like, oh, actually it was funny, just for fun, because I knew he was going to probably not have the same experience I did. I checked out the Nostalgia Critics review.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, clearly they didn't know how to edit this movie because it's all out of order. And it's just kind of like, I guess you're not a fan of Pulp Fiction or any movie that has a non-linear storyline. It's like, no, that was intentional. That's called filmmaking. Do something different. And quite honestly, I really like how they told it out of order because, and I'm going to see this now, I'm going to come back to it. This is the Batman Begins of Superman films. It tells us not just the origin story, but it really gives us a good progression of how the character came to be.
Yeah. I also think, in all honesty, it would probably not work as well if we had all the little kid stuff all in a row and then get up to Clark. I think it works better this way.
I do think that it works better as flashbacks. And it's not just the fact that they're flashbacks, but it's when something he experiences triggers it. And I think that, to me, that's the more powerful aspect of it because, he's going through, when we first meet Clark, he's wandering around because, well, it's really, it's explained a little bit, well, to me it was explained enough. I mean, if you've seen the previews, it's explained, and if you watch the movie, it's explained later on. It's like, look, he moves from place to place because as soon as somebody finds out what he can do, he's like, oh, crap. I guess I gotta go somewhere else where they can't track me.
Well, but he's also searching for...
I did what I had to do, but now I have to move away because I can't have people find out.
But he's also searching for something. He's wandering around. He's searching.
And the interesting thing is that he really and the first time I'm gonna touch on something and come back to a little bit later. The first time I saw it, I didn't catch it at first. I was like, wait, how does it find the ship? Like, how did he know to look there? And then the second time I saw it, I'm like, oh, it's because he overheard some guy talking about it in the bar. That's the interesting thing is he doesn't know what he's looking for. I mean, he has an idea. Like, it's going to be something that no one's, like, I mean, he knows it's going to be alien.
Yes.
Because he found out, okay, you're not from this Earth when he was a kid. He knows it's going to be alien, but, he's got to travel and just search. And it's one of the things where I'll know when I find it. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'll know when I find it.
Yes.
And, I thought, excuse me, I thought it really funny. Like, after I got done watching the movie, I'm like, wow, first trailer had more footage of Superman fishing than the movie did. That's kind of funny.
Yes, it did. It was.
Because really, you see what, like 2 seconds? Just to establish, okay, he's a fisherman. Actually, that's probably where the first funny moment came from me. We were watching it, and, he's underneath, he's going down to pick something up, I don't know, maybe tie a shoe or something. And, the crate's about to fall on him. And the other guy pushes him out of the way, like, hey, man, what are you doing? He's like, pay attention, you almost got crushed. And he just kind of, like, almost smiles at the guy, like, ha-ha. He's like, yeah, I'm going to get crushed. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, like, his sense was like, yeah, I wouldn't, but you know what? Thanks, dude. It was nice of you. You're an all right person, and I'm gonna save you guys. Yeah. I'm gonna save some people from a fire later. So thanks.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Is like they don't try to him and haw about it. It's straight. Okay, establish the fact that okay he is a fisherman, and boom, straight into something's going on. And the nice thing is, it's not your this scene right here is a great way to establish the world, the setting that you're in. Okay, because. So if we think about previous Superman films, okay, well, when something happens, nobody really does anything. Like, the average person doesn't really do much. You just kind of let the calamity happen, and thank God Superman's there, This time they're like, all right, call the Coast Guard, and they send a chopper, and they're like, okay, we're here, but we can't get anybody out. And this is where Clark is needed, He does it, and I love the shot. You see the guys, they're trapped, they're like, oh, crap, we're going to burn. And then you just see the door get crushed. Like, you don't know what crushed it. You just see the door crushed. And then you just see it move out of
Yeah.
They just completely stop it, and he's like, all right, let's get. And the thing is, I think it's one of those things where, yeah, it's not sure, but they're like, okay, we're not really going to question this. We're just going to go with it, because right now we're in a situation where it's life or death. We want life, so we're going to move, and he's helping us out. We'll figure this out later, sort of thing. You know, it's the seriousness. I mean, it's a legitimate threat on these people's lives, but at the same time, average people are doing what they can to help out.
Yes.
And I think that really brings a realistic quality, but also a relatable quality. You know, it's the fact that, okay, this is a setting we can relate to. You know, it feels like our world. And I thought that was something that, you know, right away you establish, and it's just done well, you know. And the nice thing is, it doesn't require a lot of the, what's the word, like the usual Superman stuff we're seeing. It's like, what do you do? It's like, all right, the door gets crushed, he moves out of the way, gets them off, and then, you know, they see him like, all right, when we get this last cut, we're getting him off, and what does he do? He's like, I'm just going to hold up, you know, this tower thing from collapsing on you so the chopper can get off. And, you know, they're actually stunned by it, but at the same time, like, you know what? If this guy can do this, we need to get out of the way, because he's holding it up for us, you know, and hopefully we'll be able to help him out later, and, you know, they never see him again. But we see him again, and it's another funny moment. We just see him come out of the water, he's like, comes up in his land, he's like, kind of like, running around, like, no crap, I gotta find. He's like, he sees the clothes on the line, he's like, maybe it's like, and then he's like, takes some clothes from this guy's car, and I'm like, you know, I know that people are gonna do that, Superman doesn't steal. It's like, yes, like, I don't think we want to watch a half-naked Superman run around either. Women might, but I think even Superman, I mean, the other thing that they establish in the kind of those things is, guess what? He's not all-powerful.
He's close to it.
He's close to it. But it's to a degree. For example, you know, when he holds up the tower at the oil rig, well, guess what? He doesn't put it back in place. It actually continues to collapse. But he holds it up long enough for the chopper to escape.
Yeah.
I like the fact that we're establishing, okay, there's limitations. It's not well, you know, you can lift, what Statue of Liberty and fly around with it. It's like, powerful, but he's not too powerful. Like, there's a limit to it. And I felt like, you know, that was one thing I was very happy to see.
Yeah.
You know, and then the fact that he's actually, you know, experiences temperatures. You know, I thought that's great, you know, and they go, you know, later on in the film, they kind of touch on it with the other Kryptonians. It's like, you know, they experience temperature just like we do. It's just a little different, you know. They can probably withstand different temperatures. Why does Clark put clothes on? Because he's cold. You know, he's in the north. He's cold.
And, you know, it's also not socially acceptable to walk around almost naked.
Yes. And when you're trying to blend in, you want to be socially acceptable.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and that's the other thing, too, is I like the fact that, you know, Clark does what he you know, we already established the fact that he's blending in. You know, he's not necessarily, it's like, I know, people are like, oh, he's not the violent man over, it's like, no, because he shouldn't be. I mean, at least not yet. By the way, I know that I talked about this on the last episode when we did the Iron Man review. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that we're not going to see Clark at the planet until the last, you know, scene of the film. And I was right. I was happy about that. I was like, yes, I was right about something in this film.
But that's also an excellent segue, too. Not only does Clark overhear about an alien ship or an alien something or other being buried in the ice, but we now go to that place and we're introduced to Lois Lane.
Yes, who is, God forbid, doing her job as a reporter and following up on the story that she hooked about and actually going to the place, checking it out, and then as she's waiting, you know, and quite honestly, like Amy Adams does a great job as Lois Lane. I mean, she is Lois Lane. You know, from all the different incarnations put together, she does it. I mean, she's a professional, but at the same time, I mean, honestly, I think it was the first line that she said, or not the first where it's like, I get weather stuff when I'm not wearing a flak jacket. So that doesn't tell you what Lois Lane is. I don't know what does. You know, that's, you know, her job is to write, but she needs to be in the thick of it, you know. She's not content of just sitting at her desk and writing a story and making a few phone calls. Like, no, she needs to be in the thick of it, you know. That's one of the things that has always been in the character of Lois Lane. Going back to the Max Fleischer cartoon, you know.
And I like those cartoons.
I've been watching. Well, I've got them on DVD, so I was watching some of them.
I had two on the VHS, but we talked about that before, so no need to talk about it again. I just felt like mentioning it.
I'm sorry. Sorry, where did you lose me?
Sorry, I was just kind of mentioning that I grew up having two of those cartoons on a VHS a long while ago, but I think we talked about this before, so no need to talk about it again.
Well, no, I'm just saying. I mean, that's you know, every incarnation of Lois, she's always been that kind of character. And even that.
Matt, you there? Uh-oh, we lost Matt. Hold on a sec, folks.
And, you know, as she's, you know, taking pictures of the area that, you know, the military, and that's the other thing, we're not just, introduced to the Lois Lane, but we're also introduced to the fact that, you know, why is Lois there? Because the military is there, you know? And the military's there because they're, they think it's some sort of Russian spaceship. Well, it's a spaceship, just not Russian.
Well, they think it's like a Russian submarine.
Yeah, well, that's what it was, Russian submarine. Well, I was right about the Russian part.
What's also nice, too, is the fact that...
Russian.
Well, what's nice, too, is the fact that, hey, it's the actual military, and, you know, excuse us for our international fans for being U.S.-centric, but this is a American story.
Yeah.
Or, you know, whatever. But it's the fact that they actually have a presence in this film. Like, the fact that you get the feel of the world, where it's like, all right, it's not just focused in Kansas and Metropolis. It's the fact that it's a global thing, because as soon as he's Superman, as soon as the world is revealed that there's a guy who can fly around and do these amazing things, of course it's going to change. That's what his adoptive father, Jonathan Kent, that was his biggest concern. Was like, the world, well, as soon as the world knows what you can do, it's going to change.
Yeah.
And, you know, if for the good or for the better, it's going to be up to you.
Yeah. Well, and you know, and that's the thing is, like, you know, we don't get a lot of moments with Jonathan, but the moments in the scenes that we get are so powerful. You know, one of the things I really like about this film is, and granted, there's a lot of action. You know, I'm fine with that. I know some people weren't, but there's a lot of action in this film. But, you know, that notwithstanding, I feel like this film was very efficient at what it does, and at telling the story that it does. And, you know, like I said, we don't get a lot of scenes with Jonathan Kent, you know, with younger Clark, but the scenes we get are so powerful, you know. You know, when, you know, after Clark sees the kids in the bus, you know, you have the aftermath of that, which is, okay, now one of the kids' moms knows, you know, and they're, like, interrogating his parents, and they're like, you know, and so Jonathan goes out, you know, Clark's sitting on the truck, and he's like, you know, we talked about this. I thought we weren't going to do it anymore. And quite honestly, it's like, it is, I mean, people are like, oh, but, you know, well, Jonathan Kent is the one who was encouraging him to be good. And it's like, yes, but, you know, encouraging somebody to be good is a little bit different in we handle it. I mean, what Jonathan Kent does a great job is teaching Clark restraint. And in restraint, not in terms of power level necessarily, but how to use it and when to use it. And quite honestly, the first time I saw this film, when I saw that scene, I immediately thought back to the scene with Peter Parker and his Uncle Ben. You know, right after, you know, after the first Spider-Man film with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
You know, and Ben's like, you know, look, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And then, of course, the power responsibility thing. But, it's that same idea. And the parents, and especially when you have a younger, he was like he was like a teenager then. It's like, look, teenagers have this thing where if they can do something, they're going to do it. They want to do it because they can. Clark can do these amazing things, and he knows. And honestly, while we don't see Jonathan, specifically tell Clark, hey, you should use your powers for good. Trust me, keep telling him that. We just don't see it, Not everything has to happen on screen, and that's one of those things where I felt like, we talked about before how the flashbacks are triggered, by something that Clark's currently going through. Well, guess what? We're seeing the more that I thought about it, we're seeing this film through Clark's point of view. We're not seeing it from a third person, from just a casual, from a non-observer. I mean, like I said, the first shot is when Clark is born.
Yep.
I mean, granted, the stuff on Krypton really, it's not like the infant Kal-El is all there all the time. But in a way, we're still seeing the story play out through his view.
I think my two favorite flashback scenes that involve the Kents was the one where Martha has to go to the school and focus on my voice, focus on that, and helps him get through it. So you got to get the sense that okay, well she's a solid foundation for him, and also it's like we have to also understand that the females of Clark's life are also important, is just as important as the males. I know we're spending quite a bit of time there. But I also really like the scene where Jonathan tells Clark, I'm assuming for the first time, is like, this is where you're from. Like, this is what we found you in. And, I have no idea what this is, and there's somewhere out there, someone else who you can call who is your father. There's someone else who is your mother. And Clark's like, well, can I still be your son? He's like, you'll always be my son.
Like, and it's not just the fact that he's saying you are my son. It's the fact that Jonathan's almost crying when he says it. He's like, you are my son. And God forbid we catch my dad during that. We're all good,
Yeah, I mean that's, as I said, even for those of us who aren't adopted, that's still a great scene of like, because you can go through a lot of, even if like to put it in perspective that for someone who isn't adopted, like because you have an easier way to explain this. For someone who has parents, it's like, but growing up, you have people you see on TV or in other mediums or your friends and other things like that, and they have major influences on you too. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, there's still this one person whom I know will always love me, and I hope will always love me, and hopefully, also like love me back, and I can continue to live. Like, can I still, be your son? Can you still be my dad? And to have that kind of a relationship with that person, because not everybody has that. So if you can have that, where you have that ability to connect to this person who created you, and just be like, or in a sense raised you, and just have that connection of, can I still be your son? And will you basically it's like, do you still love me even though I'm not this? It's like, of course, no matter what, I will always love you. And that's a positive, that's a major, if you have kids, tell them throughout their lives that no matter what they do, you will love them. Because we all need that sense of unconditional love, which a parent can provide. And the Kents do a great job in that because, Clark turns out to be a good guy. Because, yes, he's roaming around doing stuff, but he shows a lot of restraint. Like, he should have put that dude who splashed beer in his face, he should have put him through the wall. He didn't. He messed up his truck, though.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
So, Clark's a good guy, but, if you push his buttons, he's going to do something, because even though he's Kryptonian, he's also human.
And that's the other thing, too, because, especially coming off of Superman Returns, and it's like, oh, my God, there's no emotion. It's like, that's the good thing about Clark is, he has emotion, and it's funny because we talked about the guy pushing his buttons at the bar. That's really what his dad was preparing him for. Because it's like, look, and that's the other thing too is people don't realize that your teen years, your teens, your early 20 years, those are your formative years. That's the years where, you're going to push back on your parents. And you're going to, if you can do something, you're going to want to do it. And, we all go through this. We all have to learn, okay, there's time and a place for things. And, it's funny. I can't, I'm a teacher. And I can't tell you how many times since I started teaching that certain things that my dad has constantly told me start popping into my head, and I find myself saying to my students. It's interesting because, what do we constantly hear Jonathan tell Clark? It's like, look, you got to hide this secret from yourself, at least for right now. Later on, you'll make the decision, but right now you're not really ready to make the decision yet, And that's always a hard thing for parents to do. In any case, it's like, look, I want you to be able to make a decision, but you're not ready yet. And of course, when you're that person, you're like, when am I going to be ready? I'm never going to be ready according to you. Well, that's not true. It's like, we as, I say parents, I feel like a parent with, knowing some of my kids as much as I do, quite honestly, because some of they're my kids. Some of them are my kids. I feel like I've adopted some of my kids. That's sort of told you. But, it's interesting because, adults look at things differently from kids. And, I know it's not necessarily a likable thing because, bad things happen in it. But the other flashback to, with the Twister. And, Clark, he fires off his dad. He gets shot with him. And he's like, well, you're not my real dad. You're just some guy who saw me in a farm. That's not Clark worthy. He's just upset. He's probably about 17, 18 years old there, He's upset. He feels like he's being restrained. Which he is. But, he's tired of it. And, think about it. That's how we would all feel if the parents kept telling us not to do something, right?
Right.
So I felt like that scene, at least, was probably a very human scene. The restraint, all that different things of Jonathan saying, look, you got to restrain yourself, you got to keep it a secret. Why? Because otherwise, if he's not consistent with that, then because Jonathan knows, like, if I'm not consistent with that, and let me tell you, you got to be consistent. And if you're not consistent, if you're not relentless with it, you're not going to learn. It's just, if you're a parent or a teacher, you understand this. And if you're not, well, you don't understand it, but I'm telling you how it is. You got to be consistent with kids, and parents know this because, my parents are your parents, they were consistent with us. Why? Because they knew that if they weren't, we would divert from that. And Jonathan knew that, okay, when Clark is ready and he's an adult and he leaves and he goes into his own thing, he will use proper restraint. And he will choose, where and when to use his abilities. Like, even if Jonathan had lived, I still think Clark would have done what he did. He'd still try to help people where he can. He'd still move to place to place. But it would be his choice. And I do believe that Jonathan wanted that for him. He just wasn't the right time. Like I said, the Twister, Clark was about 17 or 18, so he's not out of the house yet. Back to that famous parent saying, if you live under my house, you obey my rules.
Yep.
Clark was a kid just like the rest of us. He might not have liked the rules. It might not have made sense to him, but guess what? Here's Jonathan's rules. And you talked about how, moms and dads, do things a little differently. Nurture. And Jonathan is more of the heart. I'm trying to think of the right word. Not warden. But, he was wanting restraint. It's like, yes, it's a little different from the comics and incarnations that we've seen before, but it's also realistic. And you can't go into this film. I'm going to bring this up momentarily. There are people that don't actually like this film. And when you hear about why they weren't picking it, because apparently they were expecting a cross between Avengers and the Superman films that we've seen before. and as I said before, in previous podcasts, leading up to the film, it's, going to be a realistic take. It was pegged as the first comic book movie. That had nothing of that idea going into the film. I'm like, okay, it's not going to be the Avengers. Not going to be another Superman movie as before. Like, good. I'm tired of seeing other Superman movies.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, you know what? I don't actually necessarily like those other Superman movies, so the fact that it's not like them at all, great.
Yeah. And that was probably the first thing is, I know it's funny, you were worried about it after the first trailer. I go, great. Like, I thought you said this was going to be nothing like a previous Zack Snyder film. I'm like, well, it was supposed to be. I don't know.
I don't have anything against Zack Snyder films, by the way.
Yeah. Well, you were saying, like, the slow motion and I don't remember what you said, but you didn't look very exciting.
Well, the first trailer did not, entice excitement out of me.
No.
The later ones at least got my interest.
Looking back, it's interesting. They kind of did a slow build to it, The first trailer was really just an announcement of saying, hey, we're going to have a new Superman movie.
And there's fishing involved. All right. So, getting back to our thing, speaking of parents, Clark actually does, in a way, find his parent, his father at least, his real one, by finding the ship and finding the little.
Before he follows the lead he has from the guy that he overheard from the bar. He goes to where they said, and it's interesting. He doesn't meet up with those that are in the way. The really cool thing is you see him using his heat vision to burn through the ice, or to melt through the ice and create a tunnel, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Like, there's a bit of efficiency there. And he stumbles upon the ship. He goes and he sees the thing, and he's got the command key, and he's like, oh, clear things. I mean, the thing is, you establish Clark's intelligence really well, too. It's not explicitly said, but he really figures out, it's like, all right, well, if this thing was found with me, it's got to go somewhere in here. Oh, look, that's the same shape. Well, guess what? A 3-year-old can put, a square... you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, can match up. Can match up sizes and shapes.
Star-shaped block into a star-shaped hole.
Yes.
It's just basic stuff. It's like, okay, that makes sense. And before he can actually put it in, it's like, what I thought was really cool is you just have to put it up to it, and then it's automatically attracted into it. I'm like, oh, that's great. Demonstrate the alien technology. Of course, he's attacked by a robot, and thankfully it wasn't gay. It's funny. Like, really, you got a gay robot in here? That was no, John Peters, no.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, go watch the first An Evening with Kevin Smith.
Go to YouTube and type in Kevin Smith Superman, and it'll pull up.
Yes.
You should do it anyway, just because it's really, really funny. And actually, it was really funny because when I was listening to Kevin Smith's review of it, he kept saying, he was saying, holy crap, did they put in there just to mess with me? So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter like the day of, someone posted to Kevin, said, like, they got the polar bear. There's a polar bear in Superman.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like someone posted it to Kevin. He's like, I know, right? It's weird. It's like, I was so happy when I saw that, just to be like, it's in there.
Yeah.
And the thing was, like, I'm going to jump around just a tiny bit to say, is like, I didn't realize, like, I was amused that there was a polar bear, because I was like, oh, that's like in the story. But then that's the, because I didn't notice John Peters' name until the very, very end of the movie where they were showing the credits.
Yeah.
Because they have John Peters' production. I'm like, John Peters' production? I wonder if it's the same. Wait a minute, there was a polar bear. It is! It's the same John Peters! Lois, he talks to Jor-El.
Talks to Jor-El, and, it's really interesting because I don't know if you had a problem with Jor-El's consciousness being able to be uploaded to the ship. For me, it's kind of like, look, we had Jarvis and Iron Man, and nobody questioned that. Jarvis had personality. So,
well, the key difference between
think that a superior race of beings on another planet couldn't do basically the same thing, only, add a slight tweak to it.
all right, well, I'm going to do you one a little bit better there, Matt.
Okay?
Well, in terms of comparing Superman to Iron Man, Jarvis isn't artificial intelligence.
Right.
So, I can see where people would hum and haw about that. However, now I get to do my thing of where how you like to add in Lego to everything, I'm going to add in video games. In Mega Man X, you talk to your creator, Dr. Light, through capsules that give you upgrades.
All right.
And Dr. Light has been dead for many a year when you finally meet him for the first time.
Okay.
And you can actually, in later games, you can actually have some conversations with him. So, in a way, I was totally okay and fine with the idea of having your consciousness... Yes, exactly. Having your conscience live on in something artificial.
Yeah.
So I was, and the fact that we went in going, hey, it's Superman, but it's also sci-fi, it's like, hey, I'm going to go with this. I mean, I'll buy this. This is, of all the outlandish things you could do in a Superman movie, this isn't that bad.
No. It's a hell of a lot better than having him live to Kryptonite Island.
Yeah. And among other things. Going back to it, we see that Lois has followed him, and she is attacked by that same little robot.
Yeah.
And so...
crushes in front of her.
Yeah.
Proceeds to finish her with his heat vision.
Yep.
Which, that's enough really real. He's like, and he says, like, look, I can do things other people can't. He doesn't, and the great thing about that line is, like, look, I'm not going to sit here and try to explain everything. Just trust me, okay? I can do this. Well, I don't have time to explain right now. I got to get this thing taken care of.
And I'm going to leave you in the snow and take off. Bye.
What does Lois do? She becomes a reporter. She's like, okay, I have no idea what's happened to me, but I'm going to find out.
And I'm also going to release this story whether Perry, played by Lawrence Fishburne, wants me to or not.
Yep.
And again, I'm going to say something that other people will be like, Andrew, what are you doing? Lawrence, my man, what happened?
What?
I'm just saying, Lawrence, my man, Morpheus, dude, what happened to you?
What do you mean?
Well, and I should not be the one to say this, because I'm a hefty man myself, but Lawrence, you've gained some weight, buddy. What's that?
He hasn't been in action for a while. And quite honestly, a lot of actors, unless they do action movies all the time, they don't train all the time necessarily.
I know, and the thing is, I'm not saying it to be like, oh, look at him, he's fat. No, I'm just like, it's just sort of like wow, I haven't seen Lawrence Fishburne in a while, and he's gained weight.
Yeah.
It's my only really comment. And again, it's not one of those elements where, I'm taken out of the film because Lawrence Fishburne looks different. And no.
That would be, and quite honestly, that would be really, I would have to honestly worry about you.
No, it's just, again, I happen to have an observant eye at certain things. But on the one level, it's like, hey, it's cool that they have Lawrence Fishburne playing Perry White. I like that, actually.
Oh, yeah, it was great casting. And, it's interesting about this before about it, adding diversity into comic book films. And, you know what? I think if you are modifying the ethnicity of a sideline character or a supporting character, I think that works perfectly fine. I think that you wait for us now, and down the road, the ethnicity of a main character. But I don't think doing that right off the bat is going to, sit well with the audience, especially with characters that we know and love. Almost if it's established as a certain ethnicity for so long, to change it, especially that character from Superman, regardless, a black guy who embodied the right type of acting ability and the right kind of personality for Superman, I'm sure those people would be like, okay. But at the same time, it's like, even the guy would be like, I can't play Superman in black. Even the guy himself would be like, no, that's wrong. Because I've talked to people of other ethnicities about that, and, you know, there was actually a comedian one time was saying, no, I want to play Batman. It's like, he's like, it was funny, he was doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger accent. He's like, maybe it was treated to be like, come back, man. And it's one thing, you know, if you have different characters, like, you could probably do a black Peter Parker at some point. Because guess what? When he's in a Spider-Man costume, he still looks like Spider-Man.
Yep.
You know, it's not going to detract from it. But, you know, when Superman puts on a costume, you still see his head.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but it was really nice to see that, you know, they decided, okay, we're not going to worry about the ethnicities of other characters necessarily. We're just going to make sure we cast that person. And Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, oh my God, great cast. What I really got Perry White is the fact that he wasn't just, you know, the boss barking orders. You know, when Lois came back after she, you know, because she does an investigation, and like a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter does, she's actually investigated, and without too long, tracks it back to the Kent. You know, and I thought that was great. Why? Because it showed that she was a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter.
The fact that
she
she's,
do her job competently.
you know, and thus setting up the fact that, hey, when Clark isn't wearing glasses, or he is wearing glasses, she's like, oh, she can't tell he's Superman. Yes, she can. She knows.
Yeah. And it's like, look, but, you know, going back to that scene, I love the fact that she was dead. She sees him with the glasses, you know, Perry freaks him, and he's like, oh, this is Clark, whatever it was. And she just kind of looks at him, like she's almost about ready to just bust out laughing, like, seriously? With a pair of glasses? It's going to work? I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. Like, even Lois is done on the gag, and then she plays along. I'm like, oh my God, that's brilliant.
Yep.
It's like, what a great way to add some freshness into the character. And, you know, like I said, you know, this is it's an updated modern version of Superman. As it should be.
And to make that point even further, it's the fact that, hey, as soon as, like, all this is starting to get in motion and she realizes what Clark was saying, that his father was like, you know, the world may or may not be ready, they then get to the point where they have no choice because Zod now makes an appearance and broadcasts to the entire world in every known language, I'm assuming, that you are not alone. There is one of us among you, and we want him back.
Yes. Now, I want to take a moment and talk about that, like that first contact moment. Okay. You know, after Clark, you know, finds out, you know, about his father and all that, and he gets the suit, he comes back. He comes back home with the mom. You know, like every good boy does, you know, he comes back home with the mom and says, all right, I've done what I set out to do. I'm going back home. He says, hey, I miss me. Okay. And then I found it really
Matt, you're breaking up something fierce.
what?
So you were breaking up something fierce there for a second.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what I was doing. But I was saying, you know, the scene is setting up, you know, Clark goes back home to mom. You know, they're in the house, just kind of hanging out. You know, she watches TV. What I thought was really great, it's like, okay, he grew up in Kansas. He's a red-blooded American. He's a guy. What does your typical American guy, you know, Midwestern guy do in his nights off? Drinking beer and watching football.
Yep.
There you go. Typical guy right there. I love that.
You know what I also kind of found, I mean, she didn't say it exactly like this, but I kind of find it funny. It's like, Mom, I found what I was looking for. I found my this and that, and she didn't say this, she said something else, but it was almost like that's nice, dear.
Yeah. That's nice. It's like, you know, I'm your real mom.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it was one of those moments, and quite honestly, it's like, I think to an extent, of course, like I said, I can only speak my experience, and you know my mother.
Yeah.
So this will make a lot of sense. But one of the things that they actually have Mark portray, and Jonathan to an extent, I do kind of get the impression that adoptive parents are probably a little bit more protective and more possessive over the children than regular parents.
Could be.
Like I said, I can only speak from my experience. And like I said, you know my mom, so that makes total sense to you.
Yeah, well, you know my mom, and both my brothers were adopted.
Yeah. So, that's true, I forgot about that. So that's probably, yeah, you can kind of speak from that kind of experience.
Yeah.
But I do think that adoptive parents are certainly more protective, I think.
Well, also,
It seems to be. At least it seems to be. I don't know if that's true across the board, but it seems to be.
well, I mean, I can also say from also experience the fact that my friend's parents, they adopted their daughter as well.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
And
about that.
it's a difference. I mean, it's one of those things where the fact that, you know, you don't, some parents don't always choose to have a child. Sometimes it just happens.
Right.
And they have to go through it. But to adopt someone, to go through the process of, yes, I want to take this child wherever they may be from and bring them here to an environment that I can nurture them, provide for them. Like, you are going out of your way to get somebody else's child. Legally, of course. I'm not saying steal them, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's your intention of, I want to take them from a bad situation where they have no home, they have no parents, and bring them to where I can provide those things for them. Therefore, of course, I'm going to be protective, because that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
So of course they have that. I would say that the good adoptive parents have that mentality of, and any actual parents, like, of course I'm going to love this child unconditionally, and of course, because they have this extra burden they have to bear of, you know, I am not their real parent. They have that extra hurdle to go through that a lot of other kids don't have.
Yeah.
So of course they want to be as supporting and loving as they possibly can.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've talked quite a bit on that. So the one thing I definitely want to, I mean, it's an important aspect of it. It's a powerful aspect, but we've talked quite a bit about it, I feel.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, moving forward to talking about the Zod's first shout out to the world at large.
Okay.
If that ever happened to us in real life, where they had that "You Are Not Alone" segment on TV,
Yeah.
I think I would probably, as soon as that was done, immediately jump under my bed and be in the fetal position for at least an hour, because that was genuinely frightening if that was happening.
And that's actually one of the things that I liked about it, because I'm like, oh my god, it's like, it almost felt like a horror movie.
Like, that was like War of the Worlds
That was like out of the
level.
room.
Yeah.
I mean, when it's like, okay, you know, they're sitting, you know, like I said, Clark's sitting there drinking a beer, watching football, all of a sudden, power goes out. And especially the house that they chose, you know, like this little old farmhouse.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, you can almost sense in he's like, oh, hell, not again. Where's the circuit breaker? Oh, come on.
Yeah. and then the TV comes on, and you're like, what? I mean, it was legitimately frightening. And the nice thing about that, okay?
It'll get your attention.
Get your attention, and it's an actual threat.
Yes.
You know, no offense, I love the Avengers, but Loki didn't really feel any actual threat. You know?
No, he was more of like, all right, I'm gonna go get the stuff I'm gonna go scavenger hunt the stuff I need, and then surprise attack.
Yeah.
No, Zod was like, all right, all you guys of Earth, I'm here. Someone there is one of us. I want him now. Yeah. Therefore, you know, if you don't, or if he doesn't show up, bad things. That's all I'm gonna say. It'd be in your best interest for him to give himself to me.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody,
hunky-dory, then I got this gut feeling that ain't gonna happen.
Yep. But unfortunately, it's you know.
And I do want to touch on this briefly, because it actually ties back to one of the other things. He grew up with Jonathan Kent, his adoptive father, and he gave him lots of counsel. About restraint and choosing, knowing the right time and place to do things. He was able to converse with at least the consciousness of Joel, his birth father, find out where he came from and that sort of thing. And when he has this large burden on his shoulders, he goes to a spiritual father. He goes to a priest. And I thought just the idea of fathers, being the people, I mean, obviously we have Martha Kent.
Yes.
I don't want to detract from that. Because she is, Diane Lane, who plays Martha Kent, she did a great job. And no offense to other women who have played Martha Kent, but this is the first time I felt like she was a real mom. Like, she felt like a legitimate mother.
Yeah.
And you felt like there was a true connection, a true mother-son relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that, it's like, it could have been anybody. He could have walked into a bar and talked to the bartender. But no, he goes to a church and talks to a priest. Their title is called father. It's like, I thought that was great. I was like, okay, you're still going with the father thing,
All right, Matt, I guess now that we've reached a point,
okay,
now that we've brought this up, do you want to talk the Man of Christ, Man of Steel? Well, Super Jesus?
Man of Steel. Here's the thing. People are noticing a Jesus metaphor. Okay? Yeah. Where have you been for the last 70 years?
It's not like it's been hiding, folks.
No, it's not. And not only that, but it's not like this is the first time it's been there. It's there in Superman Returns. It's there, quite honestly, which I think it was probably more so there in Smallville, only because, like I said, they were legitimately beating it over her head, where it's like, okay, it wasn't just that, at least in the Smallville universe, which kind of was supposed to be tied up with the Richard Donner universe from the previous films. In that version, in Smallville, they had Clark, he was not only sent to Earth by Jor-El, but Jor-El didn't just pick Kansas, but he picked the Kent house. And he specifically did all this weird strategic stuff to ensure that he was raised by the Kent. And I'm like, no. And it's like, whatever. So I felt like it was much more, the metaphor was much more in Smallville because, okay, if you're a Christian, you would obviously know, God picked Mary to be the mother of Christ. Well, it could have been anybody, but he strategically picked Mary. Well, it's like, if Jor-El was strategically picking the Kent as his adopted parents, which I don't like that version, because, we talked about it earlier, it's, free choice, not Clark's decision. But
yeah.
no, you're just fulfilling your destiny. Wow, that's
but we'll just...
We've also talked about it before. Superman was created by two Jews, okay? The idea of him having Earth father on another planet, the heavens, and then coming to Earth and recognizing up to Earth father, well, guess what? That was originally, copied from the story of Moses. So, okay, it started off as biblical. And, what happened as time went on? Well, typically, white Protestants would come in and work on the story. So guess what? You write what you know. If you see something that you're like, oh, we could tie this in because this would make sense. It's like, and not only that, but Superman is the epitome of good. At least Jesus. Superman is a symbol of hope. He's a symbol of righteousness. He's the character that we aspire to be, much like Jesus. Okay, I get it. Let's move on.
Yep, so for those of you who are looking, yes, there is symbolism all over the place. Sent down from the heavens. He can perform miracles. He's 33.
Yeah.
He's
that was the only thing that they had. But honestly, Superman has always been kind of in his early 30s.
I know, but I'm just saying that it's one of those things where the people who are, I don't know if they're detracting or not, like, oh, it's a big Jesus metaphor. It's like, well,
yeah, there's some people that are like that, and I'm like, yeah, clearly you don't know the character. It's been around for a long time.
And I guess my thing is like, so what? If yes, there's a Jesus metaphor there, if you're looking for it. If not, because like, I'll be honest, I did pick up on it when I was watching it, but again, that's not one of those things that detracted much. It was more like, oh, okay, it's there. I mean, I didn't notice. Someone else pointed out, oh, he's in front of stained glass. No, the lighting makes him look like a halo. Like that I didn't notice, but like all the other stuff, like I didn't notice that stuff, but a lot of the other similarities I did. But it's like, again, it's part of the symbolism of, yes, like he is someone that we aspire to be, and the fact that he's someone that can change the world, as did those who believe in Jesus. So of course that's going to be a relevant symbolic thing to tie it up with.
Yeah.
So after visiting the priest, he does decide to turn himself in, and Lois has also been.
I think that it's the brief scene, I guess, where he turns himself into the military. I remember like the first time I saw that film, and you see Superman like in full glory, and he's got the cape booming in the wind, and he's hovering above the police, and like the first two lines that he says, I'm just like, my God, he is Superman. Like at that point, I'm like, I am sold. It's like the delivery, the voice, the look, everything.
Yep. And they've also.
And then we get a really cool scene where, and I think I had to have shown it to you. We get a kind of reverse interrogation scene where the hero is sitting down with another character in like a cell sort of thing. And I think I hope that at least told you about the picture that's going around where it's.
Well, he's in the same thing with Batman.
Sitting on one side and Henry Cavill's Superman sitting on the other side. And we're like, what? And Superman sitting together at a table.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Those little things that make us happy.
Yeah. So they've also gotten Lois because they found out that she knows where they could find him, because the person she leaked the story to originally gave her up.
Yep.
So that's where you have the thing of, what's the S stand for? Well, on my planet, it's not an S. It stands for hope. Well, here it's an S.
Yeah. And when she goes to Navy, say Superman, it's kind of left up to interpretation, I think. You don't really know what she's saying. It's probably Superman, but it's like, well, you never know.
Yep.
But, the interesting thing is, like, he's sitting there, and he's like, I love the line where she's like, you let them handcuff you? And he's like, well, it really wouldn't be much of a surrender if I resisted.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about this. When he said that, he lifts up one of his eyebrows. And there's something that I do want to say, because, many years ago, you and I started working on a script for a Superman movie. We got to the point where we just do not know how to make a Superman movie, so we need to write one and meet them now. I'm sure that you remember me kind of tossing around ideas for who to cast.
And you wanted The Rock.
I wanted The Rock. And you know what? I feel like I got him. Because in that moment, it's like, this should be the eyebrow thing, just like The Rock. And that's the way he delivers his lines and certain things is like, and later on in the film where he's telling the general, like, what to do as far as how to, like, stop the world, and he's like, I feel like it was The Rock saying that line. But you know what? I might not have gotten The Rock. We can't do a good job at it.
Yep.
Like, I feel like I got him. But then, you get the bit where he gets out, and he's going over to stuff. Before that, he's like, I can see this and this. He's like, I can see this and this. Because, like, you don't really see him use the X-ray vision, but I thought that was a nice change.
Yeah.
Because the way that they did the effects of Superman's powers was different than we've seen before. When we see the speed, well, it's as if speed would look in real life. really didn't do speed much. And Storm really did something different where they would slow everything down around him and he would just move at a speed, which I thought was creative, but it was still bringing attention to it. And so for the way that they show the speed of this film, you know, we see primarily the other Kryptonians when they come down, like Thaler especially, you know. See, you know, you don't see an effect, you just see what you would see if this character really existed. And I thought that was a really cool way of doing it. You know, when we see Superman fly, like, he just literally launches off like a freaking rocket.
Yeah, it's
so,
cool.
Like, that is awesome. You know, and then he just, you know, so you tell him that, you know, demonstrating, hey, look, I can see everything, so you can't hide from me. And he just gets up and casually, like, the cuffs just, you know, he just pulls his arms apart now. Very nonchalantly. I was like, that was funny. That was awesome.
Yep. All right, so he hands himself over to Zod, and then in a surprise move, they're like, "We want that human girl too." And she's like, "Oh, we didn't say we could give her up." And they're like, "You don't have a choice." And she's like, "I'll do it. I'll do it."
You know what that first thought was when I first saw that part?
What?
The first thought was, I was like, I was half expecting Zod to be like, "I am answering the deal. Pray I don't alter us any further."
I bet you they could have gotten away with it.
They could have. It would have been one of those things that's like, that would have been a reference, but the line would have totally fit within the film.
Yep. And so we get our first part where I kind of went, but was still kind of going with it, because I was like, all right, how they, obviously they're not going to introduce kryptonite right away, but like the fact that they're like, okay, well here's a version of kryptonite is Kryptonian atmosphere.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know, you had to adapt to this, to Earth atmosphere, and going back to your native one, you wouldn't work. It's like, all right, it's a bit different than what we're used to, but this is a different movie, so all right, I'll go along with it.
Well, and it also kind of it establishes a couple things. It's like, one, it establishes the fact that Kryptonians still have to breathe.
Yes, but it's also the fact that.
We see Superman speak in space.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a nice touch. I'm like, good, you're establishing rules in this environment.
Yes.
And I like the fact, it would make sense. It's like, okay, if there are beings that are, you know, around where they would need, just like our astronauts need air to breathe, so do Kryptonians. It's just, you know, different concentrations of different gases.
Oh, no, I mean, it makes totally perfect scientific sense. So it's not one of those things like I'm going, humph, it's stupid. I'm like, no, it's like, all right, that's different. It's not what I was expecting. So it's
a good different.
It's a good different. So, you know, I guess the weird part is they didn't make it super clear of like, I guess my biggest problem with it is the fact that the atmosphere shouldn't have drained him of his powers per se, because it's more based around the sun, I thought.
Well,
but whatever.
I believe that they do establish the fact that yes, it's kind of all three actually. You know, it's the fact that Krypton has stronger, you know, Earth has weaker gravity, so his muscles will be able to lift more, which is, you know, same thing we experience if we go to the moon.
Right.
You know, obviously, Jor-El says, you know, the sun it's more stronger, more powerful, he'll drink its radiation, but he does actually also mention the atmosphere, and the fact that the atmosphere is different, and so he'll be able to, you know, it's a combination of all three, you know, which I like. I like it, okay, if you're adding in, it does also let you know, okay, there's something that's going to be different. Now, the other thing, too, is we don't know, well, there's a couple things. One, we don't know the extent to which his powers have been drained. You know, it's not taking his powers away necessarily, it's just, the only thing that we can say is like, okay, he doesn't have the strength anymore.
Right.
Which, to me, it's like, the atmosphere should not change the strength, only the gravity would. But, at the same time, that's probably the only thing that I don't know if it would be addressed. Like, if they were going to have, and this is where we get into semantics, because it's like, okay, we're arguing the logic and science aspects of it in a science fiction superhero film.
Yeah, that's why I'm not. I guess the only other thing that was kind of kooky was like, all of a sudden they had the mind meld where he's talking to Zod and gets sunken down into some skulls, and they talk about the terraforming and stuff like that. And on one hand, I mean, obviously it's part of, they got to move the plot along, and it's a way to do the exposition, and it's neat. I don't know if necessarily needed exactly like that, but they had to have that because they didn't have anything to show us that they also got information out of Lois, because that's how they knew where to go to find Martha.
Right.
So that helps with that. So I'm not going to diss it much. What I did like about this sequence, I'm trying to speed it up somewhat because we are dwelling a bit. I don't want this interview to drag too long. As she's able to get Jor-El, and she's like, and he has the control of the ship, and I really enjoyed seeing him do the moments and closing the door. And he's like, shoot left, bam. All right, let's move on. I really enjoyed that sequence.
Oh yeah, I think everybody did. I mean, that was such a different experience, and I'm like, that's awesome. I was fighting, with a laser gun on a spaceship. That's awesome. But it's also, look at the way Amy Adams portrays it. It's like she clearly does not look like she's, a movie and shooting a gun either.
No.
It's like, she's like, point shoot. Like, she's done this before,
Yep. And so then we get our first, battle with Zod and some of his crew, where he doesn't, where Superman does enough damage to him where he makes the helmet kind of go away, and he's like, oh boy, I'm feeling like what you're feeling, but I don't know how to control it, and it gets messed up. So we got to retreat for now, but we'll be back. And then they do come back and start looking for the ship and looking for, what were they looking for otherwise?
They're looking for the Codex.
The Codex, that's right. And then they find out that it's in Superman's DNA. Like, it's in his blood.
They believe that it's in the ship, so they go to his home.
Yes.
Well, you know what? They found out. Don't mess with Superman's mom.
No, because he barrels through and just beats the heck out of Zod. It's like, don't you dare!
And he even says, like, do not hit my mom! He's like, I was like, that is awesome. It's like, you've already set up the fact that they have this great relationship. And not only that, but you've already set up the fact that, look, I mean, he lost his father because he didn't stop it, And because his dad wanted him to exercise restraint. So this time he's like, look, this time I can and I will protect my mother. I'm not going to lose this other person who means so much to me.
And of course, that's a natural line that, the moment you cross it, I'm going to pound your face in kind of moment, And that's relatable for most people. It's like, look, the moment you threaten my mother is the moment I'm going to put my fist down your throat.
Yes. I was like, that's awesome. It was great. And, then we got a really, really great fight sequence, I know some people are like, oh, it's taking forever. It's like, yes, but it's enjoyable. It's entertaining. It's like, and I wanted to see Superman fight people. So, shut up. I'm getting it.
I know, and even though you were telling me, it's from the comics, I was just saying, it's a nice nod that they have Zod, what's her name, and the big dude.
Theora. Theora is like her, she's his right-hand man, The big dude, I don't know. I just know that, there's a big dude from the comics, and he's the only really tall Kryptonian. But either way, I mean, it's certainly, if nothing else, it's at least a nod the fact that they're on that street and they're kind of, walking towards each other.
Yes. And that was, to me, that was all I needed, and that's the best I think they could have done in terms of acknowledging the old and still having it work with the new, is the fact that if you're going to have Zod, it makes sense to have the two most well-known henchmen, but, the one had a helmet on, and that's fine. We can just use our imagination as to what he looks like.
Yep.
Because neither one talked, and that's all we needed.
Yep. And the way that first fight sequence was shot was great. I mean, there were moments where you could see our reaction, but at the same time, there was moments where it was close up. But even leading up to it, showing the fact that the citizens of Smallville were just in general fear. And even Clark's like, okay, you need to get you need to get away, or this is going to end up bad.
Yeah. Because he didn't say it, but like, I'm a heavy hitter already, and if these guys can do what I can do, even a fraction of a bit, there's going to be some damage.
Yeah. And there was a lot of damage. It was a great sequence, but we're going to really need to, launch the big dude into a train. Probably not. Might not have been really that thought. It's funny. People are like, oh, Superman did it. It's like, yeah, but this is his first fight. First of all, have you ever been in a fight? Because if you are, and you've actually been in a fight, and I know you have, and I've been in wrestling, and karate and stuff, it's like, if you're in a fight, even if it's staged, there's still adrenaline. And you're not going to be thinking about everything else around you. You're just going to be like, I got to beat this guy down. Your first priority is to beat this guy down. And especially in a case like this where Clark is, he's like, I know that they can do what I can do, but I've got to stop them. And so he does what he has to do. At least, and that's the other thing, too, is I think we need to reiterate the fact that he's what I'm going to call Superman Begins. He doesn't have everything figured out yet. He hasn't quite found a way to contain a fight without too much collateral damage. At least not yet, I don't feel like.
Well, also, you do bring up a good point in terms of, like, is this Clark's, like, very first fight ever? Maybe not. Maybe he's, in his, after leaving home, had to at least shove somebody away, but not so much where they're going to go flying through a room or anything. But, like, this is the very first time that he's had to fight somebody who is, at his plane or better in terms of physical strength and durability. So if he doesn't hit them hard, he's not going to do anything to them. And he's not trying to kill them at all. He's just trying to beat them up.
Right.
So the fact that...
He doesn't know to what extent, and that's the other thing. He doesn't know to what extent, and it's like, a good example, let's take you and me, okay, because that's the only thing. You and I were to fight each other, That's so we would. But if you and I were to say, okay, we're going to fight, and, one of us is going to get knocked down, okay? Well, I didn't say knockout, just knocked down.
Okay.
Well, we've known each other long enough. We probably have a pretty good idea of strength levels. We're saying, okay, well, I know that, Andrew has maybe certain weak points, or I know he's really good at grappling, so I need to make sure I hit him from far away, But Superman doesn't know that, Clark has no idea. He also, that's the other thing to keep in mind here is, these are military. They are trained to fight.
Yes.
He's not. Okay? So it's like, let's just take these things in consideration. It's like, okay, first time you fight somebody, it's like, good example. I work at a school where there's a lot of military families, okay? Well, if I were to fight you, I'd have an idea, okay? If I were to fight one of the parents, the kids, who's, trained in the military, or, one of the other teachers or something who's military.
They'd beat you senseless.
Yeah, I think not. Because I would have no idea how to fight back,
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one thing that Clark's favor is, he has worked out. He has kept himself up. And that's the other thing I think is interesting to point out is, while he has got super strength, I do believe that it is, kind of a stepping stone. Like when he's, when he saves the kids from the bus. He's strong enough to push the bus. I didn't feel like he was necessarily strong enough to lift the bus, but at least strong enough to push the bus.
Yeah.
By himself.
Well, there was a scene early on. Well, not early on, but like it's the scene where he's being bullied and he's shoved down. He's by the fence.
Yeah.
And when he gets back up, we see that he was gripping the fence so hard that he was crushing it.
Right.
So he had the super strength, just maybe not super strength at that point.
Right. I think, and quite honestly, and I'm hoping that in the next one we'll see this elaborated on maybe a little bit more. Is the fact that yes, Superman is super strong, but guess what? It's almost kind of like a realistic aspect of it. It's saying, okay, well, you take me, and I can bench press a certain amount, but you take my dad, who's bigger and stronger because he's worked out a lot more, You know?
Yeah.
Which honestly, I'd love to see a shot of Superman. A live action shot of Superman bench pressing a bulldozer. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome, actually. I'll fully agree with you on that one.
Because I think, and that's what honestly makes it, you know, just a little bit more real. Isn't it saying, okay, you know, it's almost like a power level. There's gonna be rules established. It's gonna have to say, okay, we're gonna give it some parameters so that it makes, you know, as much sense as it can. Yeah, I mean, the first fight was great, and you know, he gets Zod helmet damage, and he starts freaking out. He's like, you know, my parents taught me to hone my abilities so I can focus on them. But you're getting everything at once, and it hurts, doesn't it? Like, she's like, yeah, take it. You know? Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. So they momentarily...
We actually get to see Superman kind of get revved up in the fight, and the adrenaline, and like almost just like testosterone, you know?
Yeah. Which I'm sure he has plenty of.
Yeah.
So they momentarily retreat, and they realize, okay, well, the core that we're looking for, it's within Superman. Therefore, we'll just, you know, does he have to be alive? No. Good. We'll kill him then. Start the terraforming process. And they send down the machine. Exactly. And so they really start putting down the machine, and then all hell starts to really break loose.
And both you and I at that point were like, terraforming. That's our idea.
I know. It was one of the first messages I sent you. It was like, they stole our idea, but they did it way better.
That's fine, because they did it better.
Yeah. I mean,
it is interesting because like this shape into the terraforming process actually looked kind of what I envisioned like.
that's same here actually. So it's sort of. I mean, it'll never get written now. Our original idea was have the Eradicator come down, and then later have him fight Metallo. That was our original like.
Well, because we were gonna have Eradicator like come in, you know, the first act. Eradicator comes in and he starts the terraforming process, and then Superman would go off, find Eradicator, have a fight, and bring the broken Eradicator back to Sarlacc, and then from that, Metallo would be created.
Right. But obviously this is...
Maybe somebody has the idea, and they'll take that idea.
But hey, you know, I mean, there's still... The nice thing about this is the brand new series, there's still a way to work in Metallo because during the ensuing fights that will happen, they had dropped hints that, hey, Lex Luthor is actually in this universe, and guess what? He's not living in a sewer. It's actually LexCorp. The thing that actually makes sense.
Hey, you know, the whole real estate scam business, it ain't working out for you, Lex.
No.
By the way, that's not how you've been since the 70s.
No.
And I'm not talking films, I'm talking comics. In the comics in the 70s, that's when they started Lex Luthor being the industrialist, billionaire sort of thing. And well, I know we're jumping around, but that's okay, I like it. You know, with the half-demolished metropolis at the end of the film, I thought, wow, what a prime setup for Lex Luthor to come in and rebuild the city and be like, hey, hold on, we just had ourselves an alien invasion. I think we should probably fortify these buildings to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Right. And you know, the nice... I know, and the nice thing is they leave it so, I mean, we're skipping that a bit more, but obviously we all know that good triumphs over evil, but there is a powerful moment we will definitely talk about in just a second.
Yeah.
But what's nice about it is they leave it so nice and open for the next one to do whatever they want, because obviously, you know, Zod and his crew are taken care of. You know that Lex Luthor is around, because we saw LexCorp in the background, so we know he's there. And Clark is at the end firmly planted in the Daily Planet. So, you know, okay, anything can happen in the sequel because they left it that open.
Yes. And it's really great. I mean, and not only that, but I still think, yes, actually I was right. The other thing that I thought was handled beautifully was, you know, you got the world engine, you got one on, you know, Southeast Asia that Clark goes over and takes care of. because he can get there faster, and then the one in Metropolis, the military takes care of by using Clark's original ship that he came in, and it's very interesting. I mean, I thought it was a really interesting way of kind of tying in the science fiction aspect of it, of saying, okay, you know, the Phantom thing.
The Phantom Zone?
Engine or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know, that we can smash that into the world engine and create a black hole and we'll send it back. Honestly, I don't know. The way that they handled the Phantom Zone in this, my God, so much better. Instead of that mirror thing. The mirror thing never made sense to me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, and it even looks like a prison. Like, when you see them going into the Phantom Zone, it looks like a prison. Like, there's like chains around the front, and it locks, and you hear the locking sound. They're in there, you know? And it is kind of like an alternate, which is what the Phantom Zone is. It's why it's called the Phantom Zone. Alternate dimension. How do you get there? Kind of wormholes, you know? So it makes perfect sense that whatever's generating the Phantom Zone is a wormhole or black hole generator, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that was brilliant. But not all Kryptonian technology is in the Phantom Zone. Number one, you know, even though the Zod gets killed, his armor is still there. And so people from Star Labs could come in and, you know, dissect it and investigate it and try to learn, because one of the things that we get established in the first fight with Theor and the big dude is, guess what? That armor is bulletproof. My God, it finally takes people making a Superman film to make sci-fi armor that actually does its job.
Yeah. Also, jumping around a bit, we also, even though the armor is salvageable, the ship is not. Like, all the spaceships are gone, because even the one that Superman initially found and had a conversation with his dad, and that gets destroyed.
Well, it kind of gets destroyed, but God was in the ship when everything else was gone. So the ship, at least in parts, is somewhere.
No, he was out of the ship at that point.
He was?
Yeah, he was out of the...
I thought he had landed in the ship.
No, he was out of the ship.
Okay. Well, I would imagine that there's still some parts, at least fragments of the ship.
Oh, I'm sure there's... I mean, if they wanted...
You know, during the cleanup and everything, I'm sure that they'll recover that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not that big an issue. I'm just saying, like, in terms of, like, having a fortress of solitude, quote unquote, that's no longer that's no longer an option.
I don't think we're going to see that.
No. But anyway, so their plan to terraform is thwarted. They send most of Zod's crew back into the zone. We're assuming they're assuming death. I don't know, but that leaves Superman and Zod to battle it out.
And man, do we get a battle!
And they tear into each other. They are sending each other through buildings. A lot of Metropolis gets, you know, quite a bit of heavy damage. And at this point, what makes it more intense is the fact that Zod is saying, you know, because I was born a soldier. I was designed literally from birth to be a warrior. And because of that, I can adapt a lot faster than you could in your 33 years. So while it took you 33 years to get a handle on things, guess what? I'm getting a handle on it as I'm speaking. So as the fight goes on, Zod is getting tougher, not weaker. He's learning how to fly. He's learning how to use his heat vision. He's really demonstrating his strength. So he is giving Superman a run for his money.
Yeah.
To the point where we get to a very pivotal scene where they end up in a train station. Superman's got Zod in a headlock, and he sees a group of people. And he begins to shoot his eye lasers and is getting ever so closer to them. And Superman's like, no, don't do this.
And it's
Stop.
not just that. It's the fact, I mean, the dialogue between, you know, and this moment is really, really set up well, you know, in the sense of, you know, it starts off, you know, when Superman first sees Zod, he's like, you're a monster, Zod, and I'm going to stop you. And it's not said, but it's almost as if he would say, by any means necessary. You know, it's kind of, I felt like, you know, the way it was said is like, that's kind of the next part. The other thing, too, is, you know, Zod says, look, you know, I was born and bred to maintain the people of Krypton, and I have no people you taking that from me. So, there's no way this is going to end. Either you die or I die.
But he's also basically like saying to the biz, look, I got nothing to lose, buddy. So
I've got nothing to lose.
so I'm going to give you everything.
And the thing is, it's like, as Zod is, using his heat vision, and if you notice, he's really not, like, legitimately going after these people. He's just kind of taunting Superman at that point. He's like, look, I can do this all day, and I'm going to do it all day just to piss you off. Just to make you mad because I can. And I will never stop killing people.
And, I mean, at that point, at that realization, as the lasers are getting closer, and basically Zod's saying, I'm not going to stop, I never will, I'll keep doing this, is when Superman is forced to break his neck.
Yeah, I mean, he is, and it was, honestly, I don't know how it was for you, it was a hard thing for me to watch it first, because it's just on my back, and I'm like, whoa. So literally, like, as soon as Superman just let out that scream of, oh my God, I can't believe what I just did, so many things just came into my head of, oh my God, think about how many men and women in the service, in the armed services, have to deal with that. They want to protect people, and I do believe that some of them don't legitimately want to kill people, but they have to in some cases.
Yes. I mean, it's a big pivotal thing for...
It just made it very, I know, I mean, and the thing is, it made it human, of, yes, the idea of Superman killing somebody, is that, traditional? No. But did it make sense within the story, and was the way they handled it done well? Yes.
Well, of course, like, storyline-wise, like, Zod left him no choice. If he had a choice, he would have, of course, preferred not to have killed him. But the fact that he had to, like, he was literally backed against the wall, where, like, in order to save innocent lives, in order to save these people right in front of me, that Zod is basically saying, I'm going to fry him, and there's nothing you can do about it.
It's not just that. It's not just people in front of them. In fact, that's just it. It's like, if you're just looking at the people in front of them, you're not seeing the whole picture.
No, but I'm just saying that's the immediate issue, but also the fact that he knows that Zod's not going to stop.
Yeah, and if he doesn't stop him now, he's not going to stop him, because you're not just talking about the people in front of you. You're talking about people, everyone in the city, everyone in the state, everyone in the country, everyone in the world.
Right, so the fact that he has to do it, and the fact that he doesn't, at his core, doesn't want to do it, and the fact that once he's done this, it's going to be, he's forever now, like, forever changed. It's like the fact that he had to take a life, which is not something we normally see Superman do.
That was himself for taking it. It's like, and that is very much Superman.
Yes.
And the other thing, too, is I think, from a dramatic standpoint, I'm going to pull up the movie Daredevil. I know that, in the comics, Daredevil, because it's a superhero, doesn't kill. But in the film, he does, at least in the beginning. He learned throughout that film not to. It's character arc, okay? I do believe that we're going to see that moment have ramifications in the next film, and be that thing of, and it's not just that, but for Clark to make the decision, the tough decision, the decision he did not want to have to make, to kill the last person of his race. Because that's the other thing here, is that he's not just killing God. He's killing the last Kryptonian other than himself.
Yeah, I mean, he did make the choice. He said it himself in the movie. Krypton had its chance.
Yeah. And I think it's just one of those things, it's like, he's willing, and I think it's one of those moments where, for me, it was such a powerful moment, such a great moment. Not to say that watching people die is a great moment, but the idea of Clark making a tough choice and not liking it, the aftermath, the effects of it, he's choosing Earth because this is his home. Yes, Krypton may have been where he was born, but Earth is his home. And he's going to protect Earth no matter what.
Yes.
And that's Superman.
Credits.
And it's like, Superman Begins, and it's like, that's what makes where he's, the Boy Scout all the way through. No, he doesn't become that until the very end. Because that's what needs to happen. It's like, and what I really think is great is like, he's having to prove himself to Earth, to the military, to America, throughout the movie, because he's like, look, yes, I got this, but I've got to prove to you why I belong here, why I should be allowed to be Superman. And I think that's also kind of a commentary on the real world. It's like, look, why should we buy into a Superman movie? Why should we buy into the character? Well, he proved that to us. He had to earn it. He had to earn the audience's respect, earn the audience's trust. By doing that, by earning the world's trust in the movie. That was a great way to do it, too.
Yep. I also like the line, I grew up in Kansas. I'm American as it gets.
I love that. I love that part. That's the thing, too. It's like, kind of, I was talking about social commentary earlier. It's like, when he takes down a drone, he's like, I know you were trying to find out where I hang my cane. I'm like, that's great.
It is. I like that one, too.
It's also topical because, the idea of the surveillance drones, people are worried about that. Well, it's like if you're Superman, you have the ability to take it out. It's like, look, you're not sneaking around on me, and if I'm going to be here, I'm going to help you. It's going to be on my terms.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty great.
So, Matt, I gotta ask you.
Okay.
Probably I should have asked you this, 2 hours ago.
Okay.
But what were the things that you liked most about the film? And then after that, I mean, I know we kind of touched quite a bit on it as we reviewed it all the way through. Was there anything that you didn't like?
Well, I think, like I said before, this is actually going to answer both at the same time.
Okay.
I love the Krypton stuff, and that's one of the things I really loved about it. What I did not like is not enough Krypton. Like I could easily watch a 2-hour movie based on Krypton, like really Krypton and stuff. As far as like once we get to the other stuff, trying to think actually. If there's, I've already talked about great lengths about the influences of the parents and that sort of thing. That's very dear to my heart, and that's always been there ever since I can remember as a Superman fan. In fact, that's what got me into Superman. Batman's a lot easier to get into, I think, because he's human, and it's the idea of, well, we could do it, we could beat him if I worked hard at it, if I acquire the right things. Superman is a harder character to get into, but not if you're an adopted farm boy raised by a Midwesterner father. But, I liked the fact that they gave the world, they gave the setting that Superman is in, some rules. The atmosphere modified, he was bleeding because he had to adapt to the atmosphere. I thought it was great. Shows some sort of a science behind it. There's a parameter. Show, the idea of the effects, the speed, when Taylor is zipping around, when she first realizes that she can, move really fast, she uses it to her advantage, and so she zips around and, kills a bunch of guys. Let's see, the flight, the fact that he takes off like a rocket and he's zooming around, it's like, that was great. And then there's a couple, there's one or two shots, I think it's when he's first learning how to fly, where you hear the wind just so fast next to him, like that, I don't know, it just gave it a reality to it that we've never had before, which was pretty cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Look, the heat vision, like I said, it looked like, when it was full on, it looked like light figures coming out of his eyes. I thought it was great. The fact that there was like different variations of it too. It's not just a laser beam, or it's not just the heat things like they did in Smallville, but it's like when he's doing it lightly, it's just his eyes glow red. was doing it full on. It's like the lightsabers coming out. I thought that was really nice to see. Almost, I'm trying to figure out how the right way to describe it, like almost a different power levels. I thought that was something really great. But also the fact that it's like, no offense to those of you who actually seen any of the Christopher Reeve films, but that's not the Superman that I grew up with. I grew up with Dean Cain as Superman when I was Clark. And he is such a normal guy. And this Clark is very much a normal guy. You know, having gone through different things in his upbringing, you know, because he couldn't do, you know, he can't just, you know, yeah, I could probably put up a fence around the entire property by myself in, yeah, probably 20, 30 minutes. But I'm not going to because my dad doesn't want me to expose myself.
Right.
And my ability. I thought the relationships between the characters, the relationships between Perry and Lois, was brilliant. You felt like they were legitimate employee-employer, but co-workers at the same time. I felt that the relationship between Lois and Clark, yes, it was different. And that's honestly what I liked about it. You know, like I told you, I'll tell the others. You know, I've been watching episodes of Lois and Clark recently. I got the first season on DVD, and you know, Lois and Clark really picks up where Superman or where Man of Steel would leave off. You know, that's what we're not used to, but I like the way that the relationship was handled. You know, Lois is intrigued by Clark at the very beginning because she knows that he can do amazing things, and you know she wants to tell a story. But then as she gets to hear his story, she feels for him. You know, she understands him. She likes him. You know, she cares about him as a person. I know some people are like, oh, it's rushed or it wasn't enough. But no, I felt like, you know, when they kissed, yeah, it's a hey, we won, but it's also like, hey, we won, and okay, we can finally, but do we like each other? You know, the relationship between Clark and Zod, I thought was very interesting because, you know, Zod doesn't start off as a villain, and I mean he does and he doesn't. You know, it's like any good villain that's being written, he feels that he's right. And what he's doing.
Yes.
And so the relationship between Clark and Zod, you know, the first time Clark meets him, he's like, okay, you're another Kryptonian. I'm finally going to be able to talk to somebody that's, you know, not a computer. You know, and actually, you know, get a different sense of things, but then things don't exactly go as planned. The relationship between Zod and Jor-El, I thought was pretty cool. It was really, really strong. You know, it kind of actually reminded me of Professor X and Magneto, where they both have a strong viewpoint, but they're on opposing sides, and they both kind of teeter back and forth every once in a while about perhaps joining each other and being able to accomplish, and like they're both after the same goal, but they do it in different ways.
And they also respect each other to a degree.
Do what?
And they also respect each other to a degree.
Yeah. And I thought that was really great because, you know, in previous incarnations, it's kind of hard to really, I don't know, and I guess maybe it's just because in previous incarnations we didn't have an established Kryptonian society. And I think that's why the Krypton stuff was so strong, is the fact that while you don't get a lot of it, I would have been perfectly happy with a few more slower moments on Krypton. Then the action scenes was awesome. It's like that was cool, fighting around the universe. Like, I don't care. It's like, I don't care if, you know, I know people are like, yeah, we're going to get scientists, and how would he be? But it's like, I don't care. It's Russell fucking Crowe. Let the man fight. That's one of those times where I'm like, you know what? I really don't care if this makes sense. It's Russell Crowe, and he's fighting God. Who cares if this makes sense or not? Which I'm like, that's awesome. So there you go. Watch Gladiator. Then watch Man of Steel, and it makes perfect sense. Let's see. Anything else that I maybe didn't like? I would have liked to have seen something to the effect of somebody actually dropping the name Lex Luthor. I mean, granted, we got the logos on the trucks and stuff, which was great. It definitely lets us know, hey, he exists. He's not a maniacal man in the sewer. He's actually, an industrialist, that sort of thing. But it would have been nice to have somebody made a mention of his name towards the end of the film so that it's more solidified. And honestly, I would have liked to have seen one of the Kryptonian ships not blow up. Because part of me is like, I mean, granted, we have God's armor, which maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But there is a classic battle armor Lex Luthor that's green and purple. And I'm like, Leonard Jor-El had, if he took that armor and put it on Lex Luthor and made it green and purple, it would look just like the battle armor Lex Luthor, and then it would make sense within the context of the film. It'd still be, just fanboy dreams, But, I don't know if that'll happen. Honestly, there's very little that I didn't like.
Thing is, I'm okay with not having Lex, in it or mentioned, because that's fine. Because my biggest thing was like, it's always Luthor. Why? Give me something else. Because even in Superman 2, when it was mostly about Zod, Lex Luthor still played a big part. So we couldn't get rid of the guy, and now he wasn't in it. And I'm like, thank you. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that.
Well, that's good.
I mean, for me, it's like positives is the fact that, hey, we actually got Superman fighting people who can actually fight back. So he doesn't have to be like, all right, and flick, you're done. Or, hey, I'm going to throw you over here and you're done. So, contrary to what a lot of people are criticizing, I actually liked the extended fight scenes because we got to see Superman fight people.
Yeah.
So I quite enjoyed that. I enjoyed a lot of the subtleties that the movie had on, Clark's personality quirks and how he interacts with the world and things of that nature. I enjoy the fact that a lot of things that, could be a little weird and for the sci-fi stuff made sense.
Yeah.
So, in the context of the movie, hey, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff I didn't like.
Okay.
I guess the biggest thing that bothered me was the fact that, and the thing is, this is something that can be easily fixed in the next movie because they'll have more time to do it and devote to it, but I really have to side with the people who say that Lois was really, really underdeveloped. Like, throughout the whole, I did not get a good sense of her character at all. Other than, her role as a reporter, yes, I got that fine. But other than that, no. Didn't really get a sense for it.
I'll tell you this much. I honestly kind of feel like Lois in this, trying to figure out how to word it, series, is to Superman what Gordon is to Batman. In terms of the partnership and Lois would be the liaison to Superman to the world, from Superman to the world, just like Gordon was the liaison from Batman to Gotham. And if you really, and like I said before, this is the Batman Begins. Well, Gordon really wasn't that developed in Batman Begins, but he was very much developed in Dark Knight.
Well, that's why I say they have plenty of time to work on this. That's why I'm saying they'll have time to work on this further in the next one.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, too, is this movie is setup, okay? And I think it's like, look, to me, maybe it's just the fact that, to me, it's like, she's Lois Lane because she's what I was expecting Lois Lane to be. I was expecting Lois Lane to be kind of sassy and a strong-willed and a damn good reporter.
Yeah.
That's what she was.
Yeah, I mean,
she was in love with Superman, and she was all that. So for me, it's like I got what I was expecting. Can they develop her and Clark's relationship? Oh, hell yes. And they're going to, because now everything's set up, okay? Clark's at the Daily Planet. Superman is known. The really nice thing is, and the really nice thing about the way they've done it is, Superman is established, not just in Metropolis, not just in Smallville, but all over the world, well before Clark Kent shows up at the Daily Planet.
Yes.
So that is something that's actually set up really well, so that, you know, the one person who would make the connection, Lois, already knows, so most people aren't going to make that connection. So I think that, and that's another thing too, is I think the fact that you have the relationship set up like that now, you're going to have lots of opportunities to develop not only Lois's character, not only Clark's character, but their relationship as well in the next film.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I don't have...
I would agree.
I mean, it's not a huge problem, because ultimately the purpose of this movie was to establish Clark/Superman. And, you know, and that's what they needed to do. They needed to get all that content in there. And, you know, the fact that, you know, hey, here's Lois Lane, and she's doing Lois Lane stuff that you expect her to, you know, that works in the context of the movie, but as far as actual character development, not so much. I mean, I also, I mean, maybe it was more of a heat of the moment, like, oh, we've won, kiss, because I didn't buy the, you know, the love thing right away.
Oh, no.
I mean, there was no...
Like, I mean, and even the way that they act towards each other, it really is more like, hey, we won, we're going to kiss because we like each other, and that's about it. I mean, and that's the thing, it's like, I never really got it as love, but I didn't feel like I was supposed to either.
Yeah, so, as I said, I mean, that's...
I was fine with it.
I feel that's my biggest gripe with the movie, is that, and the thing is, as I said, it can be easily fixed in the next one, and I understand why they had to do it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing, too. That's why, one of the reasons I keep going back to Batman Begins is because, you know, similar to Batman Begins, this was not a huge, well, I mean, it was a big opener comparatively, because Batman Begins only opened to, I think, 50-something million. But, I mean, everybody, you know, raised Dark Knight. The film actually opened, let me find the number, let me see. The film has currently made almost $400 million total. Okay, $398.3 million worldwide. So, you know, first week of being opening, and it's almost hit the $500 million mark. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, it's already made a profit, which is good, and, you know, it's gone down because, you know, some people haven't liked it, I guess, and I get the fact that there's too much action for some people, because they were, I don't know what they were, and that's just it, like I said, you know, I don't know what they were expecting, I don't know, you know, I don't know a lot of things, but, you know, see it twice, because let me tell you, after seeing it how many times did you see it, Andrew?
Just once.
Okay. Well, let me tell you, I mean, there's a lot that happens in the film, and there's a lot of things that you can easily raise a question of. Like I said, you know, I can remember, like, after I saw it, I started thinking, I was like, wait a minute, why is Clark just all of a sudden at the ship in the ice area? And then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh, okay. You know, he overheard the guys in the bar talk about it. And there's little things that you might not pick up on the first time around. And in a lot of cases, as I found, if it's a film that you have that you know, if you're like, oh, there's too much going on for me to follow it, okay, then watch it again. Because if there's a film that a lot of things happen, like Inception, or Dark Knight Rises, or pretty much any other Christopher Nolan film, because he likes to throw a lot at you,
Yeah.
watch it again, because you're going to, and that's the other thing, too, is if you watch it again, you know what you're getting yourself into. You know the tone of the film, you know where it's going to take you, and so then you're able to sit and judge it on its own terms. And I think, you know, critics have judged it unfairly, from what I hear. I don't know. I don't pay attention to critics, and I very rarely pay attention to other people's reviews, because guess what? I'm the only person who I really care if I like it or not. You know? I'm glad that Andrew likes it, too. Makes it a much happier review. You know? I mean, it'd be really weird if I loved it and you're like, oh my god, this is horrible. It'd be like, okay, I'm not sure what to say now.
No,
I mean, okay, I don't know who you are.
No, if it was a lot like the last movie or Superman 1, I'd be like, they so missed everything.
Yeah.
I would just be like, all right, it's official. There is no hope for a Superman movie. If that was all they could do.
Yeah. But thankfully it wasn't.
No, and the thing is, I mean, they for what it is, I mean, Superman in general, I think is a hard character to make relatable because it's like, well, I mean, he's not. We aspire to be him, but ultimately it's like, well, none of us can fly, be bulletproof, have heat vision,
Right.
that sort of thing. We aspire to him in terms of like, well, he's a good guy and he's got a good character in terms of, you know, he's that voice, morality and stuff. Yes.
Sort of thing, yeah.
So I mean, we can't fantasize, but we can't relate to being godlike. We can't do that. We can relate to having that moral issue and family issues. That we can. So the fact that they're able to make him relatable in those degrees is a good start.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too is, you know, the nice thing is, it doesn't mean, you know, people say, oh, well, we didn't get enough Jonathan Kent doing this, or it was like, guess what? It was a flashback. So the nice thing is, you never know, there might be more flashbacks in the next movie. You know? You never know, there might be more Krypton stuff in the next movie, because, you know, if they bring in Brainiac, or Doomsday, or, you know, Eradicator, you know, that was all Krypton stuff, so maybe we'll get some more Krypton stuff, and that'd be cool.
Yep. I mean, the thing is, we're pretty much, I'm not going to say it totally, but we're almost guaranteed that Lex Luthor's going to play probably a very big role in the next one. Again, I'm just going on an assumption.
My theory, okay, because we've got Christopher Nolan producing, we've got Zack Snyder directing, we've got David Goyer writing, okay, and they're back on for the sequel, okay? Talking about in the newsroom. My theory, okay, is that I wouldn't necessarily say that Lex Luthor would be the main bad guy who Superman fights in the next film, but I do feel like, you know, it's not hard to find. It's like Lex Luthor is the Superman, what the Joker is the Batman. You know, they are arch rivals, and I do feel like he's going to be the main antagonist. I say that because I do feel like this version of Lex Luthor will work behind the scenes. I feel like he'll have something he'll use against Superman, whether it's I mean, I don't know if it would be Metallo or something like that, but you know, they'll find a way to attack Superman, just not get his hands dirty.
Right. So,
which is very classic Lex Luthor.
Like how he is in the cartoon, we can kind of imagine that to put it in context, which works. I mean, I think that's a good way to go.
Say, you know, if you're curious as to how Lex Luthor will most likely be portrayed in the next film, I would look at Superman the Animated Series and Smallville. You know, take the and actually, I would probably even look to Lois and Clark now that I think about it, because that Lex Luthor was done very well. Didn't realize it at the time. Going back and rewatching it, it's like, wow, he was actually done well. Obviously, the effects will be better, and he'll still be bald, but I you know, the really cool thing, more than anything, is the fact that not only was the intent of this film to simply say, okay, we need to get everything set up as far as Superman, but it was also to help set up a Justice League film. And there's a number of Easter eggs, not just the Lex Corps logo on those trucks that we saw. And I only know of some of these because I read them online because I'm like, okay, I did not see anything. I need to find this out from people. I want to know about these. These are legitimately things where, like, you have to look for it to see it. I don't know how anybody caught this. The satellite. when Superman and Zod are fighting, and they go up into space, and they end up destroying a satellite. Well, there's a Wayne Enterprises logo on the satellite.
Okay.
So they established, hey, Bruce Wayne exists here, which means Batman's going to be around. The female military person at the very end of the film that says the line, "Nothing, sir, I just think you're kind of hot." Her nameplate actually says Ferris, as in Carol Ferris, who we saw in Green Lantern.
Okay.
The love interest of Hal Jordan. So that would imply that she's that character. That's one of the things Zack Snyder's kind of said, yeah, this is more just for us to be like, kind of world building, and it's there if you can see it, but it's not meant to be eye-popping. It's not like an in-your-face reference. But, they are taking it very serious in terms of, okay, like, all right, Marvel, we see your Avengers and we raise you a Justice League. But by the way, we're going to show you that we can do the same thing, only make it feel real. And that's the thing, too, is I feel like if you're going to do a Justice League film, which a lot of people, I would say it's divided. Like, there are people to me where, honestly, I'm skeptical of it, because, honestly, if I'm going to watch Batman on film, I kind of want to just watch Batman. I'd like to see Robin, but I'd like to see kind of a grounded Batman. Maybe it's just because of the way Batman and Robin was handled. The idea of moving plants just seems way too silly. And so I'm a little leery of certain things, but, now we're in a universe where aliens exist. And I think, for a couple reasons, I think, instead of taking the Batman franchise and trying to launch a Justice League, solo films and a Justice League film with that, they're using Superman. And I think Superman is brilliant because two things. Number one, Superman was the first superhero ever created. He established the concept of a superhero. So using Superman to do that already, wow, this is great. I would actually like DC to literally just make solo films of their characters based upon the order in which the character was created. Let's do a reboot of Batman, and then Wonder Woman, and then Green Lantern, and then Flash. That would be awesome. But the nice thing is how real that they were able to make Krypton feel and make it be believable, and yet, like I said, you definitely get a sense of, you feel like these things are real and that they're happening. I know some people have criticized the film for having a lot of handheld use, but you know what? That makes it feel grittier, makes it feel real. It adds drama to a scene where sometimes if you just have a still camera, it doesn't have the same type of drama that it would normally have.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really great. And so if you establish, this sense of realism, and you do this across the board in DC films, number one, that's going to distinguish itself very much from Marvel films. Which some people might not like. That's okay. Each his own. But I like the idea of, if you're going to take characters, because, like you said, Superman, in terms of the powers and all that, he's completely unrelatable. It's almost godlike. Make it feel real. And then it's going to feel relatable. And then the film will feel relatable. And, talk about relatability with that. Marvel characters, all the Marvel characters have something relatable about the character, Peter Parker, yeah, he's got to fight bad guys in Spider-Man, but he's got to go home and do homework, and he's got to pick up eggs on the way.
Yeah.
Tony Stark, well, he has got to do with alcoholism, and he's a womanizer, but he can make really cool stuff. I only fall into one out of those three, which is probably a good thing. But he's funny and he's quippy, and Captain America. Even if we necessarily couldn't relate to the morality necessarily, for that, we could at least relate to the fact that, hey, everyone gets bullied or at least picked on to some extent in their life. And, like you said before, you can root for the scrappy underdog, and then you can root for him even more because he's the good guy. There's something there in a Marvel film, but I think for DC to be successful, and it needs to, like it's always done, distinguish itself from Marvel. But I do think it's like, look, it's not about Marvel versus DC. Marvel's done a great job. Avengers is a great movie. It's fun to watch, but it's definitely not the same type of film that we saw with Man of Steel, and vice versa. I like the fact that, making Superman feel real was a hard challenge, and I feel like they pull it off well.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do next. Not just in terms of the Man of Steel sequel,
But in their other movies as well.
I do want to talk about some really awesome titles. I don't know who posted this. It's somebody on one of the forums I was reading. They said, okay, we've got Man of Steel in 2013. Then the next film will not be like Man of Steel 2. It'll be called Man of Tomorrow. And I thought, wow. It's called Man of Tomorrow, which is another name for Superman.
That'd be cool.
Then you can play up the fact that, okay, Lex Luthor is rebuilding Metropolis, but he's not just rebuilding Metropolis the way it was. It's the city of tomorrow. If you actually look at some, especially drawn, like the animated series, and in the comics, Metropolis is known as the, it's the more modern city. If we compare Metropolis and Gotham, well, Gotham is, it's an older city. It's darker, it's banker, it's a city kind of gone bad. Whereas Metropolis is a city of tomorrow. It's the one of hope and of prosper, and it's got, top of the line, what are they called? I want to say metronome.
Monorail?
Train that goes above ground.
Monorail?
Monorail, there you go. Monorail.
So basically it's like Metropolis. It's the shiny one.
Exactly. Which it actually, before it got demolished, was pretty shiny in Man of Steel. But, the nice thing is, okay, just like, well, one thing I do like about destroying half of Metropolis, just like, and, it's kind of like, Batman Begins where, Wayne Manor gets burned down. It's like, oh, well, that's great. Now what are we going to do? Well, they rebuild it. And they got to build a Batcave. So we got a fully formed Batcave in Dark Knight Rises. So by destroying half of Metropolis, we'll get a Metropolis in the next one that'll look even better. That'll be that city of tomorrow. And one of the great things about, calling it film Man of Tomorrow, and I don't know, I'm just speculating, I just think it'd be a cool title. You can really play that up with Lex Luthor and he's bringing it in. And there's so much you can do. I don't think people should look at this film as saying, okay, this is the only Superman film. Like, no. This is the setup. This is your first act. And quite honestly, if filmmakers learn nothing, okay, you got the Iron Man trilogy, you got the Dark Knight trilogy, you got Star Wars trilogy, you got trilogies all over. Series really do work best in trilogies. Because you can treat the first film as the first act. And the second film is the middle act. And the third film is the third act. And if you really do that, yeah, you're only going to get 3 films. But you're going to get 3 really good films. And I felt like we got a great first chapter. A great first act. To what I hope will be a very good Superman trilogy.
Yep, just keep our fingers crossed.
Yes.
And I believe we're kind of tapped out on Superman, unless you have more to say.
Oh, I got plenty more to say. I'm just tired.
So, in all, I think I enjoyed it. Matt obviously enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yes. I do want to, you know what? I got to be honest. There was one thing I didn't like, but it wasn't about the film. It was about my film-going experience. Because I lived in a small town in an area where I don't have enough nerd friends, I did not, even though I did go to a midnight show, I did not go in costume. Because I went to go see it with a friend from work, and the theater we went to was in the town that we work in, and let's put it this way, the theater wasn't even full.
Aww.
And which was rather interesting. But I did wear a Superman T-shirt, so I was still supporting him. But it was a little weird to go to a midnight show for a Superman movie and not go in costume. So
I did.
You know,
it
it would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have been cool. I did go on my birthday, as I said I would, so hooray.
Yep. Yay.
And I had a good time.
Well, let me ask you this, okay?
All right.
Because I know that my parents' reaction, my dad liked it. I guess my brother liked it. I know my mom liked it, but, you know, similar to my girlfriend, she said, well, we just way too much action. Too much action, you know. They could have cut about a half an hour off. What were your parents' reactions?
Oh, they both liked it. My dad liked it quite a bit. He basically, as soon as the movie was always like, I'm getting that one. That was great.
Yeah. That's good.
And I can kind of hear my mom going, oh, another DVD. We have so many.
Well, he watches them, right?
He does on occasion. I mean, not as much as I would. But Mom liked it too. She thought it was enjoyable. Well, the thing I did want to mention, thank you for bringing this, for reminding me, was we talked about this briefly a while before, was because we went midday, we didn't go to a midnight showing, we went the day of.
Yeah.
And like a 1 o'clock showing, I believe. So, granted, it was still summer, so anybody could have gone, but it was still on a Friday, I believe, right? Friday?
Right.
Yes,
Right.
it was Friday. Friday afternoon, so still plenty of people at work, so not as many people could go. So we had some mothers bring their kids, which was fine,
Okay.
but also quite a bit of older people were there.
Yeah.
And you were kind of going, huh? And I was like, well, it's because, as you said, he was the first superhero ever created, and he's been around for, what, over 70 years at this point?
Over 75, almost 80 years.
Almost 80 years, so he is a multi-generational
Actually,
character.
I take that back, Andrew. This year, because he was created in 1938, so this year marks the 35th anniversary of Superman.
So
He's
30.
75 years old. So, really, he's as old as a lot of us went, probably.
All right, so 70. So he is a multi-generational character that has been around.
Older than your parents.
Yes. I mean, he's one of those characters that has been around, so it makes total sense that he is a character that everybody would actually want to go. A lot of people, not a lot of generations would want to go see.
Yeah.
Can't say that for every superhero.
No, you can't.
So that was an interesting experience. But other than all that said, the best we can say is up, and away, and freaks out.
Freaks out.